Chapter 288. You want to see me fight against Riot? Venom glanced back at Rog and asked with uncertainty. Yes, you have become a Lord-level symbiotic body now. Don't you want to wash away your shame? In the past few hours, although Venom didn't say anything, Rog could see that Venom was constantly adapting to the power of the Lord level and silently adjusting his state. But I don't know where Riot is, and I don't have the confidence to win against Riot now. Although Venom was promoted to the Lord level after devouring Tyrannical, Riot is also a Lord-level symbiotic body. And unlike Venom who had just been promoted to the Lord level, Riot has been at the Lord level for a long time. This also means that Riot's strength will be stronger than the current Venom. More importantly, the previous painful experience has left Venom with some psychological trauma, making him instinctively afraid of Riot. At the beginning, Riot could have given Venom to his friend, but he didn't do so. Instead, he tore apart half of Venom's body. This approach seems to be sparing Venom's life, but in fact, it is really killing him. Not only will it ruin his future, but it will also make him bleak for the rest of his life. What Riot showed was not mercy, but cruelty that lasts a lifetime. Leave the matter of finding people to me. If you really can't beat Riot, then let me help you complete your revenge. No matter how strong Riot is, it is not stronger than Tyrannical. Even Tyrannical was not Rog's opponent, let alone Riot. After hearing Rog's almost guaranteed answer, Venom stuck out his tongue excitedly and quickly nodded. The reason why Rog let Venom find Riot for revenge is not only to let Venom wash away his shame, but he also has some plans of his own. He is starting to look down on the army-level symbiotic body. Therefore, he intends to get a few Lord-level symbiotic bodies back. Since he has already set his sights on the Lord-level symbiotic body, it is better to take advantage of the situation and let Venom take revenge on the way, lest Venom is always thinking about it. In addition, he also intends to further strengthen Venom. Riot is a good target to devour. The process of finding the Riot was not complicated. In fact, it could even be said to be extremely simple. Casting Chakra's perception spell to search for the target with the highest life force within a radius of 500 kilometers, casting quantum teleportation, asking for the location of the Riot in a friendly manner, packing it up and throwing it into the mediumship scroll. Next, the above process was repeated. Rog and Venom were lucky. After repeating the process 3 times, they asked about the whereabouts of Riot. Are you ready? Rog asked Venom before preparing to use quantum teleportation to directly reach the area where the Riot was. My fangs have long quenched their thirst. Venom replied excitedly. Then let's go. A brilliant aurora-like light flashed, and the figures of Rog and Venom instantly disappeared. When the light of quantum teleportation dissipated, Rog finally saw the Riot that changed Venom's life. It was earthy yellow in color, had a humanoid body, and was over 4 meters tall. Other than the difference in size and color, Riot looked like another version of Venom. Before the teleportation, Rog confirmed the life force on Riot and roughly inferred Riot's strength. Stronger than the current Venom, weaker than the previous Tyrannical. It meets the devour requirements of the symbiotic demons, which is good. Go, take back your dignity and glory, and let the name Venom resound throughout the symbiotic demon's home planet again. Rog turned his head to look at Venom, cheering Venom up with his Chunibu lines. Venom didn't speak, but nodded very seriously, and then ran towards Riot less than 100 meters ahead. The moment Rog and Venom appeared, Riot recognized Venom and showed a puzzled look. Venom was promoted to the Lord grade? As the instigator who destroyed Venom's future and made Venom a laughingstock, Riot was certainly no stranger to Venom. It was precisely because of this that he was puzzled by Venom's promotion to the Lord grade. After losing half of his body, he could still be promoted to the Lord grade? Although Riot didn't know how Venom did it, one thing he was sure of was that Venom's promotion was related to the Earthling next to him. Just as Riot was guessing the relationship between Rog and Venom, Venom, who was running at full speed, came in front of Riot like a black shadow, and his sharp claws directly grabbed Riot's head. Because of their racial form, the battles between symbiotic demons were simple and crude close combat. The only difference was that the weapons and forms of each symbiotic demon would be different. Unlike Venom, who liked to fight hand-to-hand, Riot preferred to use weapons. Before Venom's claws touched Riot, Riot's hands turned into two huge scimitars, slashing at Venom from left and right. Four symbiotic demons with amazing regeneration ability, a little injury in battle was nothing. To some extent, they even liked this kind of injury for injury tactic. So whether it was Venom or Riot, they had no intention of avoiding each other's attacks. Venom's claws tore Riot's head as he wished. Riot's scimitars also slashed at Venom without any suspense, almost splitting Venom into three. Injuries that would be fatal to other creatures were nothing to the symbiotic demons. Without any hesitation, the injured Venom and Riot attacked again. While Venom and Riot were fighting like wild beasts, Rog used would release and made himself a wooden chair to sit on. If it was a battle of other people, Rog might seriously appreciate it to see if there was anything worth learning. But the battle of symbiotic demons was completely meaningless. These guys purely relied on their racial talents to fight. Learning their fighting style would only make him die faster. Time passed little by little. Venom and Riot were like two wild beasts that would not tire at all, crazily fighting each other. If you scratch me, I'll slash you. If you hit me with a hammer, I'll hit you with an axe. If you dare to bite my neck, I'll dare to tear your thigh. Their recovery ability was strong, and they were more wild in battle. From the looks of it, the current Venom and Riot could be said to be on par. But Rog could clearly sense that the life energy in Venom's body was depleted faster than Riot's. This also meant that when Venom lost all his stamina and regeneration ability, Riot could still beat him up as if it was alive and kicking. This was not good news for Venom. Although Rog promised Venom that when he was no match for Riot, he would take care of Riot himself. But if possible, he still hoped that Venom could take care of Riot himself. So until the last moment, he would never take action. Chapter 289. As time passed, Venom, who could have been on par with Riot, began to gradually fall into a disadvantage. The battle between Riot and Venom has been maintained at a very high attack frequency. After noticing that Venom's attack speed had begun to slow down, Riot once again increased his attack speed and frequency. Kill Venom in one fell swoop. Riot's idea at this time was very simple, that is, to first focus on killing Venom, who was inexplicably promoted to the Lord level, and then deal with Rog. Although Rog hasn't made a move and played the role of a spectator very well. However, Riot was keenly aware of the unimaginable amount of energy radiating from him. Riot didn't know what chakra was, but he was sure that this energy he had never seen before was very dangerous. In other words, any creature with such powerful energy in their body is very dangerous. In terms of close combat, Venom is not weaker than Riot, and he is even more outstanding than Riot. However, Riot has a huge advantage that Venom can't reach. The weapons transformed by Riot are not only sharper and harder than Venom, but they are also far more varied than Venom. This also leads to a somewhat awkward problem. The weapons transformed by Venom may not be able to hurt Riot. And the weapons transformed by Riot can easily hurt Venom. If it weren't for Venom's advantage in fighting skills, he would have died under Riot's 18 weapons. Even the experienced and knowledgeable Rog, after seeing the weapons transformed by Riot, couldn't help but exclaim that Riot is a weapon master. All kinds of cold weapons he has seen or never seen before were transformed by Riot one after another. And he doesn't know if Riot has OCD, but the weapons he transformed into would basically only be used once, and then quickly change to other weapons. Judging from the types of weapons and the use of them, Riot can indeed be called a rare weapon master. However, there was a small problem. His attacks gave Rog a feeling that they were flashy but not practical. Is he deliberately showing off his skills? Rog looked at Riot with some doubts. Just when Rog was thinking about whether Riot is showing off his skills or OCD, Venom started to take a defensive posture. He was starting to find it hard to continue fighting with his life on the line. As a newly promoted Lord-class symbiotic demon, Venom's foundation was far inferior to Riot's. Moreover, the psychological shadow that appeared from time to time further affected his performance. If possible, Venom certainly hoped that he could use a tough stance to directly kill Riot, but the gap in strength would not change because of his personal wishes. At this time, both of Venom's hands had turned into black shields that were half the height of a person, constantly blocking wave after wave of attacks. At the same time, Venom silently calculated the remaining energy in his body. Half an hour. He could only last for half an hour at most, and then he would revert back to his original, defenseless state. After confirming that he could no longer defeat Riot with his own strength, Venom set his eyes on Rog in the distance. Then he saw a strange scene. At this moment, Rog's eyes were closed and his right hand was supporting his tilted head. His breathing was calm. Did he fall asleep? At this moment, Venom suddenly felt like he had met a scumbag. What happened to the promise? Didn't we agree that when I can't solve Riot, you will solve it? Looking at Rog, who seemed to have fallen asleep, Venom suddenly roared and then took the initiative to face Riot. Relying on others was unreliable. Instead of praying for others' help, it was better to fight for an opportunity with his life. Since Venom could bring his symbiotic demon army to fight everywhere in order to become stronger. Then, the current Venom could of course fight desperately for revenge and survival. I don't want to be a laughingstock in other people's mouth anymore. I don't want to be a joke in my race anymore. I absolutely don't want to be called trash again. Venom's rationality began to gradually disappear and was replaced by pure instinct for revenge. In the past, Venom would feel lucky to have survived by a fluke. But now, he would only do everything to take revenge. F***CK honor, F***CK promotion, F***CK becoming stronger. I just want to tear this bastard in front of me alive. Ah! The shields in Venom's hands had long disappeared, and the sharp claws emitting cold light appeared again. Tear him apart. When Venom's mentality changed, Rog in the distance and Riot in front of Venom immediately noticed his change. Venom's white eyes that had no eyeballs turned blood red. Not only that, but Venom's figure also began to change. His body, which originally had some elasticity, became extremely hard at this time, and his black body exuded a dark metallic light. Dang 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 dang. The weapon in Riot's hand hit Venom's body, making a crisp sound of metal colliding. What's going on with this guy? What's going on? Looking at Venom, who had suddenly become different from the others, Riot was puzzled. Just a minute ago, he still had the upper hand. As a result, Venom turned his head and glanced at the Earthling, and he became like this. Thinking of this, Riot suddenly realized something and turned his head to look at Rog in the distance. At this time, Rog was completely different from before. Not only was he not asleep, but he also stood up from the wooden chair, looking at the mutated Venom with satisfaction. He wasn't asleep, and the reason why he acted like that was nothing more than to see what Venom would do. If Venom brought Riot over after seeing him asleep, then he would deal with Riot as promised. But if Venom didn't bring Riot over, then he would give Venom a big gift that he couldn't refuse. The strongest Lord-level symbiotic body. As long as Venom can show the belief of revenge even at the cost of his life, as long as Venom has this mentality of only relying on his own strength to fight against a strong enemy, then he will help Venom become the strongest Lord-level symbiotic body. Some things can be obtained through acquired training, such as a certain degree of strength and ability. There are also some things that can never be obtained through acquired training. For example, beliefs, such as mentality. When Venom made this choice, he may not have thought so much. But on Rog's side, Venom's choice just now made him very satisfied. Riot was able to stand out among hundreds of millions of symbiotic bodies and become one of the few Lord-level symbiotic bodies, indicating that he is not the kind of idiot who only knows how to use brute force. So after seeing the satisfied look on Rog's face and the sudden mutation of Venom, Riot decisively made the choice to retreat. There is something wrong with Venom, and there is also something wrong with that Earthling. Retreat first, and then slowly settle accounts with Venom later. As soon as this thought appeared in Riot's mind, Rog's voice came over. Would release Trapping Beast Cage. Chapter 290. Rog clasped his hands together, and rows of square wood rose from the ground, quickly building an enclosed space the size of a football field. The name, Beast Cage, was just casually given by him, and it has no special meaning. Moreover, what he used at this time was not a Mokutan ninjutsu, but a simple use of Mokutan. If he doesn't like the name Beast Cage, he can change it to Coliseum or Wembley Stadium, and it won't affect the effect at all. It's rare for Venom to enter a berserk state. If he lets Riot escape at this time, Rog will despise himself. With the appearance of the Mokutan cage, Riot finally understood Rog's plan. This guy wants me to die here and become the target of Venom's devouring. After realizing this, Riot no longer held back, and the energy in his body surged wildly. Riot's yellow body suddenly skyrocketed, reaching 10 meters in an instant. After that, the gigantic Riot punched Venom, who had gone berserk, and ran towards Rog. First deal with this earthling, then deal with Venom. Although Riot doesn't know why Venom has become this berserk state. But one thing he can be sure of is that Venom's berserk state won't last long. If the energy in Venom's body was declining steadily in a gentle manner before, then now, the energy in Venom's body is declining rapidly, like diving into a pool, burning frantically in a state of burning his life force. This desperate berserk state made Venom burst out far more powerful than before, but it also consumed Venom's energy quickly. According to Riot's estimation, Venom can only continue to maintain the berserk state for more than a minute, and then he will collapse without any suspense. More than a minute, this time is not long. But if he chooses to resist, it will also cause a lot of trouble for him. Therefore, Riot decisively changed the target, adjusting the attack target to Rog, and at the same time delaying Venom's time. Riot's choice can't be said to be wrong. It can even be regarded as killing two birds with one stone. He can take the opportunity to waste Venom's little remaining time, and he can also kill Rog, who is not pleasing to the eye, during this time. Their choice was correct, but the Riot had overlooked two very important issues. Venom, in his berserk state, would not let him leave, and Rog was not as weak as he thought. Although the physiques of Earthlings were weak in the eyes of the symbiotic demons, the physiques of humans could not be lumped together. Rog was the one who couldn't be lumped together. Rog didn't have any intention of moving as he watched the chaos rushing towards him. He just snorted disdainfully. Riot hadn't run far when 4 or 5 tentacles as thick as an arm appeared behind him like chains. Then he pulled Riot, who was 10 meters tall. Bang! Riot did not expect Venom's counterattack to come so quickly. Due to the inertia, Riot fell heavily on the ground, kicking up a small cloud of dust. Before Riot could fight back, Venom, who was far away, suddenly retracted his tentacles. He flew into the air and landed on Riot's back. Then, there was a dazzling tearing. The larger Riot was like being pounced on by a mad wild dog at this time, and the pain of his body being torn apart quickly occupied all his thoughts. Although Venom in the berserk state still maintained his previous size, his attack power and defense have undergone a qualitative change. Previously, it was the weapons transformed by Venom that couldn't break through Riot's armor. But now, Riot's weapons couldn't hurt Venom's body. Although Riot was still alive at this time, and he was fiercely resisting Venom's bite. However, the overall situation has been decided. Venom's berserk state can only last for more than a minute, but this minute will be the most difficult minute in Riot's life, and it will also be the last minute of his life. When Venom tore Riot's huge body apart and grabbed Riot's body, Venom opened his arms and roared towards the sky. Ah! Venom's furious roar resounded through the world, as if announcing his return to the entire symbiotic demons. Riot, who was thrown aside by Venom, was just about to transform his body again when Venom suddenly pounced on him and devoured him, devouring him alive. At this time, Riot was not as violent as before. He had lost all ability to resist. Now Riot still had a lot of energy and had enough power to fight back. But Venom didn't care about this at all. He just kept biting Riot's body, devouring the enemy who changed his life bite by bite. All the unwillingness, all the anger, all the hatred at this time turned into Venom's appetite, making him devour Riot crazily. When Venom devoured the symbiotic demons the first 2 times, Rog would turn his back, not wanting to witness the cruel and disgusting scene of Venom eating. But this time, he didn't turn around, he just watched Venom eat without saying a word. It didn't take long for Riot's body to be completely devoured by Venom's blood-red eyes, leaving no trace behind. After devouring Riot, Venom stood up silently, his blood-red eyes looked at Rog, then his whole body fell back weakly and completely fainted. It's over. Venom's revenge battle is officially over. Looking at Venom lying motionless on the ground, Rog used would release to make a half-meter-high wooden bed for Venom, and sat back on the high-back wooden chair. Time passed by little. In Rog's perception, many symbiotic demons gathered outside the wooden cage. Several of the bolder symbiotic demons even had the idea of climbing in. For these symbiotic demons, the strongest was only an ordinary army level. Rog had no intention of making a move. He didn't even have the thought of standing up. In order to dispel the curious thoughts of these symbiotic demons, and also to let Venom have a quiet sleeping environment, he exuded a terrifying aura that was more powerful than the Lord-level symbiotic demons. Of course, when he exuded his aura, he deliberately avoided Venom, who was sleeping. The moment Rog's aura swept through, the symbiotic demons that gathered seemed to have encountered the most terrifying existence in the depths of their souls, and they trembled involuntarily. Then, they showed their fastest speed and fled into the distance without looking back. Not long after, all the symbiotic demons within a 10-mile radius disappeared. After sleeping for more than 6 hours, he finally woke up after swallowing the rioting Venom. Glancing at the wooden bed under him, Venom slowly came to Rog and silently thanked him. "Let's go, we still have 25 symbiotic demons to catch." Originally, there were still 28 symbiotic demons to catch, but when asking about Riot's whereabouts, the 3 symbiotic demons that were asked for directions were also thrown into the summon scroll by Rog. Chapter 291. Can you still devour other symbiotic demons now? Or do you need to digest them first? After leaving the wooden cage, Rog asked Venom. He didn't just say that he wanted to make Venom the strongest Lord-level symbiotic demon, he really intends to do so. After all, if Venom becomes stronger, he can also relax a little. Are you going to continue to feed me? He doesn't know if it's because of his successful revenge. Venom's mood at this time is obviously much better than before, and he even took the initiative to joke. Don't use the word feed, it will make me look a little perverted. But I do have plans to make you stronger, as a gift for your successful revenge. Roger explained simply. He wouldn't tell Venom that this was something he had already decided on a long time ago. I definitely don't mind devouring a few more Lord-level symbiotic demons, but if you really do this, we may be collectively hunted down by other Lord-level symbiotic demons. Losing 1 or 2 Lord-level symbiotic demons is nothing for the symbiotic demons, it's just a normal replacement phenomenon. But if I continue to hunt other Lord-level symbiotic demons with you, we will become the public enemy of the whole planet. After devouring 2 Lord-level symbiotic demons, Berserk and Berserk, Venom's strength has changed dramatically. Even if he can't compare to Berserk at his peak state, he is not far behind. This also means that the vast majority of Lord-level symbiotic demons will not be his opponent. If he joins forces with Rog, the 2 of them can capture all the Lord-level symbiotic demons in just a few days. The public enemy of the whole planet? Do you still care about this kind of thing? Rog replied with a smile. Since the 2 of them came here from Earth, they have been regarded as invaders of this planet. The public enemy of the planet or something, they have been since the beginning. Of course I don't mind. Venom opened his big mouth full of fangs and smiled. Rog and Venom happily reached a consensus and embarked on the journey to capture other Lord-level symbiotic demons. At the same time, on a mountain peak several hundred kilometers away from them, a Lord-class symbiotic demon that resembled a dinosaur was discussing something with a colossal symbiotic demon that resembled an octopus. The news that Venom had returned and defeated the riot spread throughout the symbiotic planet during the few hours that Venom was asleep. Although the symbiotic demon planet did not have any technological products, when the symbiotic demons gossiped, the speed at which news spread was not any slower than Earth with the internet. The grudge between Venom and Riot was no secret among the symbiotic demons. After all, the matter of Riot tearing apart half of Venom's main body and helping her friend to advance to army level was a big news that was rarely seen in hundreds of years among the cold-hearted symbiotic demons. Many symbiotic demons even suspected that Riot had developed some kind of relationship with his friend that went beyond friendship. This conjecture was also the most popular one back then. If it wasn't for the fact that symbiotic demons were creatures that reproduced asexually, this conjecture would most likely become a reality. The dinosaur symbiotic demon and the octopus symbiotic demon were plotting something, and in other places on the symbiotic planet, different scenes of Lord-class symbiotic demons were also playing out. Venom defeated Riot, which means that Venom has become a Lord-class symbiotic demon. Thinking about the possible outcome of Riot, it was not difficult to guess how strong Venom, a newly promoted Lord-class symbiotic demon, was. However, these Lord-class symbiotic demons ignored a small problem. That is, before Venom defeated Riot, he also devoured the top 10 Lord-class tyranny. This also led to a problem. That is, the evaluation of Venom's strength by these Lord-class symbiotic demons was generally low. Riot's strength was not outstanding among the Lord-class symbiotic demons, so Venom, who defeated and even devoured him, would not have a high evaluation. If that incident hadn't happened back then, Venom might have been promoted to Lord-class long ago. In a plain, a brown giant symbiotic demon with only one eye said slowly. Opposite him was a black symbiotic demon that looked like a legendary demon. Riot died in the hands of Venom. This is not a big deal. The death of one or two Lord-class symbiotic demons is not a big deal. But I heard that Venom was not the only one who made a move this time. There is also an Earthling beside him. The black symbiotic demon said with some dissatisfaction. No matter how the symbiotic demons fight, it is our race's business. It is indeed inappropriate for an Earthling to intervene. After a few seconds of silence, the brown giant symbiotic demon replied. I'll leave Venom to you, and I'll leave that Earthling to me. I heard that the Earthling's strength is not bad. I want to meet this guy who dared to take the initiative to come to the mother planet to cause trouble. The demon symbiotic demon looked up at the brown giant symbiotic demon and took the initiative to invite him. 4 Lord-class symbiotic demons, whose lives are simple and boring, there are not many things that can interest them. A newly promoted Lord-class symbiotic demon and an Earthling who should have some strength are very in line with their standards of having fun. Not only did the demon symbiotic demon have this idea, but other Lord-class symbiotic demons also more or less had this idea. Of course, those Lord-class symbiotic demons who were not as strong as Riot would definitely not have this idea. Then what are we waiting for? If we are late, the fun will become someone else's. As soon as the voice fell, the brown giant symbiotic demon, who was more than 10 meters tall, took the lead and ran in the direction where Rog and Venom were. At the same time, other Lord-class symbiotic demons who were trying to have fun also rushed to the location where Rog and Venom were. On this ordinary day on this planet, more than 20 Lord-class symbiotic demons made the same choice. At this time, Rog and Venom did not realize that they had now become the hotcakes in the eyes of other Lord-class symbiotic demons. A fresh entertainment that can spice up their boring lives. Half an hour later, Rog felt the life energy signals of 3 Lord-class symbiotic demons. An hour later, the life energy signals of the Lord-class symbiotic demons reached 15. An hour and a half later, the number of Lord-class symbiotic demons that appeared in front of them reached an astonishing 27. Are they here to celebrate your promotion to Lord-class? Looking at the Lord-class symbiotic demons in the distance, each taller than the other, each more peculiar than the other, Rog asked curiously. What do you think? Unlike Rog, who was not nervous at all, Venom at this time was fully alert and entered a combat posture at any time. Chapter 292. 27 Lord-level symbiotic demons appeared together. This kind of phenomenon, even in the entire long history of the symbiotic demons, could be counted on one hand. At the very least, Venom couldn't remember the last time something like this happened. This is what I call the planet's public enemy, Venom said to Rog in an extremely serious tone. While speaking, his eyes didn't dare to leave the Lord-level symbiotic demons in the distance. The lineup is quite big, but this is also quite good. At least after this battle, you can be considered to have completely left your name in the history of the symbiotic demons. The opportunity to leave one's name in history is not something that anyone can have. To be honest, the appearance of these Lord-level symbiotic demons at the same time was indeed a bit beyond Rog's expectations. In his estimation, at most, there would be 2 or 3 Lord-level symbiotic demons who would come to find trouble with them. But it turned out that there were more Lord-level symbiotic demons than he imagined. This kind of opportunity can lead to death. Venom was indeed full of confidence in Rog, but he still didn't think that he and Rog could defeat 27 Lord-level symbiotic demons. No, not only could they not defeat them, they might not even be able to leave alive. 1 or 2 Lord-level symbiotic demons working together was nothing. 4 or 5 Lord-level symbiotic demons working together could barely deal with it. But 27 Lord-level symbiotic demons working together, this was no longer a matter of whether they could deal with it or not, but how long they could last. At this time, Venom began to wonder if Rog had some invisible aggro aura on him that could attract so many Lord-level symbiotic demons. People will indeed die, but it will definitely not be you or me. You pick 2 symbiotic demons that meet the devouring standard and deal with them yourself. As for the rest, leave them to me. Rog's tone was as flat as ever, as if he was talking about how to divide the fruits he just bought. After hearing Rog's words, Venom turned his head and looked at him in disbelief. What does that mean? Is he planning to fight against 25 Lord-level symbiotic demons alone? Were all the youngsters nowadays so arrogant? In terms of age, Venom was at least dozens of times older than Rog. From his point of view, it was not an exaggeration to say that Rog was a young man. However, that wasn't the main point. The main point was that Rog actually intended to take on 25 Lord-ranked symbiotic demons by himself. 25. Lord Symbiotic Demon. They weren't the soldier class or elite class symbiotic demons that could be seen everywhere. Instead, they were the Lord-class symbiotic demons that stood at the pinnacle of the symbiotic demons. They were the famous Lord-class symbiotic demons. Venom wasn't the only one who felt that Rog's words were ridiculous. Even the Lord-class symbiotic demons on the opposite side were stunned. Although Rog's voice wasn't loud, he purposely used the universal language translator and chakra to transmit his voice so that the horde leader's symbiotic physiques in the distance could hear him clearly. Making sure that the Lord-class symbiotic physiques on the other side understood what he was saying was just for the sake of better acting cool. However, unlike Venom, these Lord-class symbiotic demons showed a ruthless sneer after hearing Rog's words. What's the matter with this Earthling? Was he out of his mind? After staying on a backward planet like Earth for a long time, does he not know the immensity of heaven and Earth? All kinds of ruthless sneers sounded one after another, and even some Lord-class symbiotic demons made indecent gestures towards Rog that crossed different races and civilizations. Rog didn't take the ridicule of these Lord-class symbiotic demons to heart. He just silently used summoning jutsu to summon the 4th Hokage's White Heiori, Disaster Pistol, Flying Thor Kunai, Kusanagi Sword, Dwarf King Ai Choi and other equipment one by one. Amidst the ridicule of the Lord-class symbiotic demons, he unhurriedly put on the armor and equipped the Disaster Pistol, Flying Thor Kunai, Kusanagi Sword and other weapons. Finally, under the gaze of all the symbiotic demons, he put on the 4th Hokage's White Heiori. Venom thought that Rog was just joking with himself to ease the somewhat tense environment. But after seeing Rog fully armed, he suddenly realized that Rog was serious. 1 against 25, he was serious. Have you chosen yet? I'm excited now. Rog didn't intend to make a big scene on the symbiotic demons planet. Otherwise, he wouldn't have only brought 100 containers. But after seeing these 27 Lord-class symbiotic demons appear one after another, he suddenly had the idea of going all out. The last time he went all out was a bit of a long time ago. Warner Protoss's Sea God Njord, Dark Elf King Malekith. It seems that there were only these 2 times. Roger quickly tried to recall what had happened. Dinosaur and Demon. Venom pointed to the 2 Lord-class symbiotic demons. He didn't say the names of the 2 Lord-class symbiotic demons, because if he only said the names, Rog wouldn't know which one it was. No problem, these 2 are yours, as for the rest, they are mine. As soon as his voice fell, the chakra in Rog's body surged wildly, and his whole person instantly entered the battle state. He clapped his hands, and a would-release ninjutsu was cast by him. Would-release, would-clone. On the ground behind Rog, 4 wood carvings that were exactly the same as him suddenly emerged. Then, the 4 wood carvings separated and turned into wood clones that were exactly the same as him. This time, he didn't summon the shadow clone that he usually uses, but summoned the wood clone that has better resistance. Summoning the wood clone, in addition to the outstanding resistance of the wood clone, there is another reason that only he understands. When these 4 wood clones stood on his left and right sides, he did something that he wanted to do for a long time, but he never had the chance to do it. Susanoo, the main body and the 4 wood clones said at the same time, and 5 light blue Susanoo with muscles and meridians appeared at the same time. This is the second stage of Susanoo, and also the peak state that Rog's current Susanoo can reach. At the moment when these 5 Susanoo appeared, Rog's momentum also reached the peak, and his insufferably arrogant momentum instantly swept over all the Lord-class symbiotic demons on the opposite side. At this time, although Rog didn't say a word, he used his momentum to convey a message to the Lord-class symbiotic demons on the opposite side. I'm right here, come at me if you have the guts. Although it's impossible to recreate the famous scene of Uchiha Madara using 25 Susanoo against the 5 Kage, Rog can create his own famous scene. 5 Susanoo against 25 Lord-class symbiotic demons. Chapter 293. 5 Susanoos spread out in a row, coupled with the imposing manner of looking down on the world. Rog used his actions to prove what was called arrogance. Looking at Rog, who took the initiative to provoke them, the Lord-class symbiotic demons in the distance showed an unhappy look. All along, it was only them who looked down on others. When did it become their turn to be looked down upon? And now, it wasn't the symbiotic demons who didn't put them in their eyes. Arrogant, ignorant, not knowing the immensity of heaven and earth. Although these Lord-class symbiotic demons didn't say anything, they all gave the same evaluation of Rog. As for Venom, it was ruthlessly ignored by them. Although Rog's behavior made these Lord-class symbiotic demons very unhappy, they still didn't intend to join forces to attack. If he wanted them to join forces, Rog still needed to show strength worthy of their cooperation. The Susanoo's appearance and imposing manner were impeccable, but just these were not enough to make these Lord-class symbiotic demons join forces to attack. Although Rog didn't know what these Lord-class symbiotic demons were thinking, after seeing that they didn't intend to take the initiative to attack, he made his move. Bang bang bang. Rog raised his disaster pistol and casually fired 3 spiral electromagnetic gun bullets. 3 palm-sized blue and white Rasengan drew 3 straight blue and white lines in the air, instantly arriving in front of these Lord-class symbiotic demons. Then, there were 3 terrifying explosions. Rumble! A terrifying explosion like a supernova instantly appeared. 3 blue and white light balls rose like a mushroom cloud. The dazzling blue and white light instantly occupied the whole sky. An energy storm symbolizing destruction and death crazily swept through everything in the surroundings. Silver-white electric current, astonishing hurricanes, and terrifying shockwaves were born at the same time, jointly creating a scene of doomsday. The earth began to crack, the sky began to lose its color, spiderweb-like cracks and earthquake-like tremors appeared one after another. These Lord-class symbiotic demons didn't expect that Rog could actually release such a powerful attack. What made them even more shocked was that Rog, who released such a powerful energy attack, still looked calm and relaxed. At this moment, they finally understood why Rog dared to say that he would take on 25 Lord-class symbiotic demons alone. They finally understood why Venom, who had fallen to the bottom of his life, was able to rise back to the Lord tier and defeat Riot for revenge. This Earthling had the strength to match his arrogance. The might of the 3 Helix electromagnetic cannons was indeed astonishing, but it was still a little weak to defeat these Lord-class symbiotic demons that had lived for who knew how many years. Even Tyrannical could withstand a spiral railgun by himself and survive. Among these Lord-class symbiotic demons, there were many who were stronger than the Tyrant. Moreover, there were more of them, so each of them received less damage. Of course, it was impossible for them to be killed instantly. Rog didn't expect these 3 electromagnetic cannons to kill the Lord-class symbiotic demons. The reason he fired those 3 spiral electromagnetic cannons was to tell these Lord-class symbiotic demons that if they wanted to defeat him, they had to work together. Otherwise, they wouldn't stand a chance. For both sides in a battle, words weren't the only thing that could be used to communicate. Attacks could also be used. Sure enough, as soon as the power of the Helix electromagnetic cannons began to dissipate, 3 or 4 Lord-class symbiotic demons rushed towards him. And behind these 3 or 4 Lord-class symbiotic demons, there was a second attack team. That's right, this is more like it. When these Lord-class symbiotic demons rushed towards him, Rog and the 4 Wood clones performed the same ninjutsu at the same time. Ketan, Grand Fire Annihilation. How could he not use Ketan to deal with the symbiotic demons? 5 flames converged into a true sea of fire, showing the amazing power to burn the sky and destroy the earth. The surrounding temperature rose rapidly, and the orange-red flames became the undisputed protagonist. The entire plane became as hot as purgatory. The power of Grand Fire Annihilation was unquestionable, but the Lord-class symbiotic demons weren't pushovers either. The terrifying flames and the astonishing temperature could burn the bodies of these Lord-class symbiotic demons, but it couldn't stop them from advancing. Just a few seconds after Logue finished casting Grand Flame Extinguisher, a few Lord-tier symbiotic demons rushed out of the sea of fire and arrived in front of Logue. These Lord-class symbiotic demons that arrived in front of him had different forms. In addition to the common humanoid and bestial forms, Rog also saw a relatively rare insect form. This was a Lord-class symbiotic demon that looked like a praying mantis. But it was different from ordinary praying mantis. This symbiotic demon was more than 6 meters tall and had 4 sickle-like forelimbs. For a symbiotic demon, any form wasn't a problem. The only problem was that the form they took wasn't in line with their own aesthetics, and it wasn't suitable for them to display their strength. When these Lord-class symbiotic demons arrived in front of them, Rog and the Wood clones still didn't intend to move. Instead, they condensed chakra into Susanoo weapons. In the blink of an eye, 10 chakra swords appeared in Susanoo's hands. Double sword flow, Susanoo. Without any command, the moment the chakra sword was formed, the 5 Susanoo simultaneously transformed into a dual-blade swordsmanship master. Dang 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 dang, the sound of metal colliding continued to resound, and the chakra in Susanoo's hand continuously hit the body of the Lord-level symbiotic body. And the weapons of these suzerain symbiotic demons also arrived at Susanoo's body one after another. Just like that, a primal and exquisite close combat battle began. Blades flashed and swords flashed, blood and flesh flew everywhere. Although the body of the Lord-level symbiotic demons was comparable to steel, but in front of Susanoo's chakra swords, they were still very fragile. At this time, Susanoo was like a violent and skilled butcher, crazily stabbing and slashing these Lord-class symbiotic demons in front of it. No matter what kind of weapon these Lord-class symbiotic demons transformed into, no matter what kind of body they transformed into, the chakra swords in Susanoo's hands would cut their weapons, cut their bodies, and leave one astonishing wound after another on their body. This kind of fighting style may be useful for others, but for Rog who used Susanoo, it didn't have any meaning. With the protection of Susanoo, these Lord-class symbiotic demons couldn't even touch him, let alone injure him. This was Susanoo, the third kind of power that could only be unlocked after awakening Mangekyo Sharingan. This was the power of God. Chapter 294. At this moment, Rog suddenly had an inexplicable feeling that even if there were thousands of soldiers and horses in front of him, he would not retreat a single step. 5 Susanoo lined up in a row, like an indestructible line of defense, blocked all the enemies who were rushing towards them. Rog's Susanoo at this time is only the second form of Susanoo. Even so, these Lord-class symbiotic demons couldn't do any harm to him. It didn't take long for the other Lord-class symbiotic demons to join the battle. Lord-class symbiotic demons of various shapes and colors surrounded Rog and his Wood clone. At this moment, Rog and the Wood clone were being attacked from all angles. All kinds of weapons and claws from different directions and angles hit Susanoo's body one after another. Even some Lord-class symbiotic demons, relying on their size advantage, directly pounced on Susanoo, trying to crush Chakra's Susanoo. Against the attacks of these Lord-class symbiotic demons, Logue and his Wood doppelganger retaliated by swinging their swords continuously. Although chakra wasn't a godly weapon, it was more than enough to deal with these Lord-class symbiotic demons. According to the plan, Rog and the Wood Clone would deal with 25 Lord-class symbiotic demons. However, these Lord-class symbiotic demons clearly had no intention of cooperating with Rog's plan. Especially the dinosaur symbiotic body and the demon symbiotic body that were picked by Venom, they ignored Venom. The newly promoted Lord symbiotic body, Venom, was ignored just like that. This made Venom very unhappy, very unhappy. Therefore, Venom chose to take the initiative to participate in the battle, participating in the chaotic battle of the Lord-level symbiotic demons. However, Venom didn't expect that not long after he joined the melee, the Susanoo controlled by the Wood Clone grabbed him and threw him out. Before Venom could react, the Lord-level symbiotic body in dinosaur form and demon form was also caught by Susanoo and thrown near him. "Go play somewhere else and don't bother me." Although Rog didn't speak, he expressed his meaning with practical actions, and he was sure that Venom could understand what he meant. After throwing Venom and the two Lord-class symbiotic demons away, he focused his attention on the nearby Lord-class symbiotic demons. Although the two-handed Susanoo showed amazing swordsmanship, the regeneration and recovery ability of the Lord-class symbiotic demons were also amazing. For ordinary life forms, these Lord-class symbiotic demons only need 1 or 2 breaths of time to completely recover. As a result, an unconventional picture was born. Susanoo's chakra long sword had no way to directly end these Lord-level symbiotic bodies, and Lord-level symbiotic bodies also couldn't break through Susanoo's defense. The battle scene looked very bloody, but it was far from reaching its climax. Killing these Lord-class symbiotic demons in a short period of time. The symbiotic demons and the symbiotic demons. The regeneration ability of the symbiotic demons is amazing, and the regeneration ability of the Lord-class symbiotic demons is almost immortal. If you want to kill these Lord-class symbiotic demons, you can either use a powerful attack to kill them or slowly wear them down. Rog didn't like to fight for a long time, and he didn't need to kill these Lord-class symbiotic demons. 25 Lord-class symbiotic demons. If he killed them, it wouldn't be in line with his habit of making the best use of them. What's more, he didn't intend to kill these Lord-class symbiotic demons from the beginning. Don't look at how he is using Susanoo to madly attack these Lord-class symbiotic demons. But in fact, he just wants to consume the life energy of these Lord-class symbiotic demons to pave the way for the next step of his plan. After madly slashing these Lord-class symbiotic demons with chakra for a few minutes, Rog and the Wood Clone dispelled chakra at the same time and then used the same ninjutsu. Right? Discharger, 200 million volts. Without chakra, Susanoo grabbed the Lord-class symbiotic demons in front of it, and at the same time, a dazzling silver-white light erupted from its body. The terrifying silver-white electric current centered on Susanoo instantly spread to all the Lord-class symbiotic demons in the surrounding area. The scene that once played on Tyrannical was once again played out. But this time, it wasn't just one symbiotic demon that experienced the electric current flowing through their body, but a total of 25 symbiotic demons. In addition, this was also the first time that Rog used this ninjutsu to the extreme. The silver-white electric current flowed through the body of each Lord-class symbiotic demon, causing their body to instantly scorch. The main body hidden in their body was also eroded by the electric current, making a sizzling sound like burning meat. When Rog and the Wood Clone used Discharger, 200 million volts, Venom and the other 2 Lord-class symbiotic demons didn't hesitate and decisively pulled away to avoid being affected by the electric current. Their reaction couldn't be said to be slow, but even so, there were still a few scattered silver-white lightning that hit their bodies, leaving charred scars on their bodies. Just like chakra, Discharger was also a ninjutsu to consume the life energy of these Lord-class symbiotic demons. So the moment the Discharger ninjutsu ended, the 4 Wood Clones once again used ninjutsu. Golden Seal. As soon as the silver-white lightning dissipated, hundreds of golden chakra chains rushed out from behind the Wood Clone and attacked the Lord-class symbiotic demons that haven't had time to get rid of their scorched bodies. Whether it was Susanoo or Raiten or Discharger, they were just appetizers. Golden Seal was the real feast that Rog prepared for these Lord-class symbiotic demons. These Lord-class symbiotic demons didn't have time to react, when the golden chakra chains had already arrived in front of them and firmly bound their bodies. The unique life form of the symbiotic demons allows them to change into any form to get rid of the shackles. But they would never have thought that the golden seal that Rog used at this time was not an offensive ninjutsu, but a sealing technique used to bind them. After being bound by the chakra chains of Golden Seal, these Lord-class symbiotic demons have no possibility of leaving. Without any suspense, the bodies of these Lord-class symbiotic demons were pulled out of their bodies one by the chakra chains and pulled behind the wood clone. Rog didn't use Golden Seal because he didn't want his body to become a vessel to bind these Lord-class symbiotic demons. And the wood clone obviously didn't have such thoughts. Under the gaze of Venom and the other 2 Lord-class symbiotic demons, the bodies of these Lord-class symbiotic demons were forcibly pulled into the wood clone's body. The bodies of 25 Lord-class symbiotic demons were in their hands. Chapter 295. Without the main body, the scorched bodies began to dissipate, and the whole battlefield became empty in an instant. After the wood clone pulled the 25 Lord-level symbiotic bodies into its body, Rog didn't hesitate and instantly removed the Susanoo and the wood clone. In addition to being more resistant to beatings than the shadow clone, the wood clone also has a very significant feature, that is, the wood clone still has a physical body even after being removed. After removing the effect of the ninjutsu, the 4 wood clones turned into lifelike wooden carvings, standing motionless in the same place. The chakra in the wood clone disappeared, and the Lord-level symbiotic bodies that were pulled into the wooden carvings by the King Kong seal also lost their shackles. Just as these Lord-level symbiotic bodies tried to leave this weak cage, a powerful force instantly shrouded the wooden carvings, sealing the wooden carvings completely. Sealing Jutsu, for symbol seal. The wood clone's body was just a container, and after adding the 4 symbol seal, it became the real seal container. The hope of these Lord-level symbiotic bodies to regain their freedom had just been ignited, but it was ruthlessly extinguished by Rog. After doing so many things, how could he let these Lord-level symbiotic bodies leave so easily? First, he provoked these Lord-level symbiotic bodies, so that they would attack together in a state of anger. Then he consumed their life energy, making them easier to seal. Finally, he used the wood clone as a seal container, completely sealing these Lord-level symbiotic bodies. From the beginning, Rog didn't intend to kill these Lord-level symbiotic bodies. His goal was very clear from the beginning, that is, to seal them. Watching Rog throw the wooden carvings with the 4 symbols seal into the summon scroll one by one, Venom suddenly had a feeling of what was going on. Just like those Lord-level symbiotic bodies that were sealed, Venom also thought that Rog wanted to fight to the death with them. He didn't expect that Rog's idea from the beginning was to seal these Lord-level symbiotic bodies. That was a total of 25 Lord-level symbiotic bodies. Sealing 25 Lord-level symbiotic bodies at once, solving all the problems at once. Was this the so-called way of doing things? Venom didn't know how to describe his current mood because he found that he couldn't keep up with Rog's pace at all. Venom knew that Rog still had 25 idle containers in his hands, so he took it for granted that Rog's approach at this time was to solve all the problems at once. But in fact, Rog wasn't thinking about this at all. The containers made by Hinata can only hold army symbiotic demons at most. Trying to use those mass-produced containers to imprison suzerain symbiotic demons was looking down on the strength of suzerain symbiotic demons. Moreover, the reason he sealed these 25 suzerain symbiotic demons wasn't to complete his plan of capturing them. Rog ignored Venom's shock and directly used quantum transmission to disappear. Leaving just like that? Wait, how can you leave just like that? What about me? What should I do? A few seconds after Rog disappeared, Venom finally reacted. Rog's disappearance was not only beyond Venom's expectations, but it also puzzled the remaining 2 suzerain symbiotic demons. After seeing Rog seal 25 suzerain symbiotic demons at once, the dinosaur-looking and demon-looking symbiotic demons immediately had the idea of escaping. But after seeing Rog leave without saying a word, they looked at each other tacitly, and then set their eyes on Venom at the same time. The Earthling left without saying a word, which means that Venom was, regardless of whether Venom was abandoned or not, Rog's departure is a good thing for these two suzerain symbiotic demons. Because this means that Venom has no reinforcements. Without any hesitation, the two suzerain symbiotic demons immediately attacked Venom, intending to solve the guy who caused so much trouble as soon as possible. Although the dinosaur-looking and demon-looking symbiotic demons are stronger than Venom, Rog is not very worried about Venom's safety. Even if Venom is not the opponent of the two of them, it is not a problem for him to last for a while. Through quantum transmission, Rog directly came to the Golden Jack in outer space. During the time when Venom swallowed Riot and fell asleep, the Golden Jack controlled by Hinata had already arrived near the symbiotic demon planet, waiting for Rog's return. At this time, there was no one on the Golden Jack except for Rog and Hinata. The modified Golden Jack doesn't need any extra operators, and Hinata can handle everything alone. Hinata, the Black Death Sword plan can start now. After coming to a specific laboratory, Rog took out the 4 wood clone containers from the summon scroll. Then he summoned another wood clone and handed the real summon scroll to the wood clone. Without any instructions, the wood clone, who got the summon scroll, used quantum transmission to leave the Golden Jack and returned to the symbiotic demon planet. Rog didn't intend to participate in the rest of the capture plan personally. With the wood clone and Venom, it was only a matter of time before the remaining 25 containers were filled. The reason why Rog brought Venom to the symbiotic demon planet was to capture enough symbiotic demons. Then he would create the Black Death Sword that the god of symbiotic demons, Nar, once owned. The Black Death Sword is the ancestor of all symbiotic demons. The weakness of the symbiotic demons is that they are afraid of high temperature and sound waves. This is the aftereffect of the forging process, which was then passed down to generations of symbiotic demons. The Black Death Sword in Nar's hand has the power to slay gods in the truest sense. Even the head of a celestial god can be cut off with a single sword. Even Garl, who accidentally got the Black Death Sword, could gain the prestige of a godslayer with the help of the Black Death Sword. If he can find the real Black Death Sword, Rog doesn't mind taking it for himself. But the problem is that he doesn't know where Godslayer Garl is now, or even if Garl exists. So before getting the real Black Death Sword, he intends to make a replica for himself, just like when he asked Tani to make the Rumbling Thunder Fan and the Kusanagi Sword. But this time, he plans to do it himself. Symbiotic demons, to a certain extent, can be regarded as raw materials for the Black Death Sword. What he needs to do now is to use these symbiotic demons to create his own Black Death Sword. Of course, this kind of weapon creation plan, which is only based on theory and calculation, is bound to have accidents, so he went to the symbiotic demon planet to capture symbiotic demons so that he has enough raw materials. Even if all of them fail, it doesn't matter, he can just go to the symbiotic demon planet again. And the raw materials this time are better than he imagined. Chapter 296. When formulating the Black Death Sword plan, Rog wasn't very clear about the specific classification of the symbiotes. His original idea was that as long as the symbiote captured was not much worse than Venom, it could be used as the raw material for the Black Death Sword. Of course, the Venom used as the standard refers to the Venom when he was still on Earth, not the Venom that has been promoted to the Lord grade now. After coming to the symbiote planet and knowing the classification of the symbiotes, he raised the standard of raw materials to the army grade. However, he didn't expect that those Lord grade symbiotes, after knowing about him and Venom, would actually form a team and appear in front of them, and there were 27 of them. In the face of this surprise gift that was almost equivalent to falling from the sky, Rog of course could only accept it with a smile. As a result, the standard of the Black Death Sword's raw material was once again raised because of the collective appearance of these Lord-grade symbiotes. Although Rog has no experience in forging weapons, he is very sure of one thing, that is, the better the raw material, the better the quality of the weapon forged. In this specially modified weapon forging room, Rog came to a wood clone container, and then took the initiative to open the 4 symbols seal on the wood clone. The moment the 4 symbols seal was opened, The Lord-grade symbiotes in the wood clone once again saw the light of hope that symbolized freedom. But before they had time to get rid of the shackles, the 4 symbols' seal closed again, firmly sealing them in the wood clone. The opening and closing of the 4 symbols' seal all happened in a flash, so short that it was like a false illusion of freedom. However, these Lord-grade symbiotes quickly discovered that the scene just now was not an illusion. There was one less resident in the wood clone. Of the 4 wood avatars, 3 of them had 6 symbiotic demons sealed within them. And the wood clone that Rog chose had 7 symbiotes sealed inside. By opening the 4 symbols seal, he forcibly dragged out a Lord-grade symbiote from inside, and then sealed it again. After taking out this lucky symbiote, Rog didn't even look at it, and threw the mucus-like symbiote into the mold. He doesn't need to participate in the specific forging process. The specific forging process will be handled by Hinata. In order to let these symbiotes revert to the form of the Black Death Sword, in the past month, Hinata has seriously browsed a huge amount of weapon forging knowledge, making herself a theoretical weapon forging master. In addition, Hinata also used venom as a sample and conducted a lot of research and calculations, obtaining a large amount of first-hand data. So, to a certain extent, Hinata is worthy of being the first symbiote weapon symbiote. As for whether or not the sword symbiotes, Black Death Sword or not. If Hinata really couldn't do it, he had a backup plan. Dwarf King AI. With his relationship, he's after throwing the symbiotic demon into the mold, Rog sat down on a nearby chair and waited patiently. This what he had to do was just to take the symbiote out of the wood clone and provide Hinata with some chakra from time to time. After all, this was a weapon made for him, so the weapon made must be able to adapt to chakra. The sound of metal colliding constantly sounded, and the symbiote lord in the mold kept screaming miserably. Under Hinata's control, the symbiote lord in the mold kept changing its form, little by little, getting closer to the shape Rog wanted. Although the plan was called the Black Death Sword plan, what Rog asked Hinata to make wasn't a sword. Compared to a sword, he actually preferred a katana. The reason was simple: using a katana to cut people was more domineering. And this time, he didn't use the common Japanese katana, but combined the characteristics of the Tang katana and the Ming dynasty's embroidery katana to design a brand new katana. This katana was closer to the style of China's katana, and the arc was between a straight katana and a curved katana. It was both convenient for slashing and stabbing. The first symbiote lord didn't last long in Hinata's hands, and it helplessly lost its life and turned into a pool of liquid without any signs of life. In this regard, Rog wasn't surprised, and he took out the second symbiote from the wood clone. Because of the first experience, the second symbiote lord lasted a little longer, but in the end, it still died in the mold. Then came the third, the fourth, the fifth. After killing 5 symbiote lords in a row, Hinata finally obtained enough data, and the success of the plan finally began to emerge. The 6th symbiote lord was successfully stabilized into a katana. Then the 7th, 8th, and 9th symbiote lords were thrown into the mold. With the 6th symbiote lord as the embryo, the 7th, 8th, and 9th symbiote lords were smoothly integrated, and the embryo was further formed. The next thing was relatively simple. Hinata continued to purify the embryo, and Rog continued to add symbiote lords, chakra, and some reality gems to the mold to adjust and stabilize the state. The forging process was boring, but Rog and Hinata didn't have any impatience, and they focused on cooking the symbiote lords in the mold. Nearly a week has passed since the beginning of the forging process. Venom and the wood clone have already completed the capture plan and returned to the Golden Jack. In the past few days, Venom witnessed his own kind being thrown into the mold one by one, and then he didn't feel anything. Symbiotes were originally a race that didn't have many emotions. Even if it was their own descendants, it was the same. Therefore, Venom didn't feel any sadness or pity for the suffering of those symbiote lords. Instead, he became a bystander with great interest. Venom knew very well what Rog wanted, and he also wanted to see what kind of power a weapon made with symbiote lords as raw materials would have. When the mold, which had been running for almost a week, calmed down, and the weapon in the mold revealed its true appearance. Rog and Venom showed the same puzzled look. Is this the weapon made by the symbiote lords? It looks very ordinary. At this time, what appeared in front of them was a black katana more than 1 meter long. The blade was slightly curved, and the hilt was integrated with the blade. The blade was a typical Senkaku style. There were patterns in the shape of auspicious clouds on the pitch-black blade, and the blade was dim and lightless. 20 Lord-class symbiotic demons were able to create such a blade? Venom couldn't see what was special about this black katana at all. In his opinion, this katana was not as good as Rog's current Kusanagi sword. Chapter 297. Not only did Venom feel that this black blade was a bit too ordinary, even Rog himself felt that the black blade was a little different from what he had imagined. There was no problem with the appearance of the black blade. It was exactly the same as the one he had designed. Even the auspicious cloud patterns on the blade were the same. But the problem was that he did not feel any energy from this black blade. Not to mention the energy contained in the 20 Lord-level symbiotic demons, just the energy from the chakra and reality gem that he had injected was not a small amount. But now, he did not feel any energy. I shouldn't be so unlucky, right? Rog's face was ugly as he came in front of the black blade. He slowly stretched out his right hand and held the black blade that he had high hopes for. Light blue chakra appeared in his right hand and then slowly flowed towards the black blade. When chakra completely enveloped the black blade and slowly flowed into it, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. There was indeed no energy in the black blade. That was because all the energy in the black blade had been consumed. When his chakra entered the black blade seemed to come alive and crazily devoured his chakra, like a hungry wolf that had been hungry for days devouring its prey. After injecting nearly a full amount of chakra, the black blade finally stopped devouring chakra and calmed down again. After devouring a large amount of chakra, although the black blade's appearance did not change, the aura it exuded had undergone an earth-shattering change. The black saber from before gave people the feeling that it was just an ordinary saber. It was neither sharp nor outstanding. But now, the black blade exuded an aura of destruction and death like an ancient beast. After seriously looking at the black blade in his hand and casually swinging it a few times, Rog nodded with satisfaction. The weight was suitable, the shape was good, and it was very easy to use. The fusion of chakra was also very smooth. Come with me to the training room. Before Venom had time to speak, the brilliant light of quantum transmission completely enveloped him. If you want to test whether a blade is useful or not, the best way is actual combat. I'll try not to hurt you. As soon as his voice fell, Rog launched an attack on Venom. Because he was testing the power of the black blade, Rog did not use ninjutsu, but used taijutsu. Facing Rog's attack, Venom did not hesitate. His hands immediately turned into huge scimitars and slashed directly at Rog. Venom knew what kind of strength Rog had, so he didn't dare to be careless at this time and used his full strength. Venom's hands turned into scimitars and arrived in front of Rog at lightning speed, then left his body. Rog originally wanted to use the black blade to block Venom's attack, but he never expected that the moment the black blade came into contact with the scimitar formed by Venom, the black blade would display an unimaginable sharpness. It was as if the black saber had cut through a soft cake. It went straight through the machetes and cut the two machetes that were about the same size as him in half. How could it be so sharp? Rog and Venom didn't expect Black Blade to be so sharp. It was so sharp that they were caught off guard. The scimitar formed by Venom was instantly cut off, and Rog decisively retracted his blade. At that moment, he inexplicably had an impulse to directly cut Venom's head. But as soon as this thought rose, it was forcibly suppressed by him. Will this blade affect the user? Rog couldn't help but frown at this discovery. The sharpness shown by the black blade surprised him, but the fact that the black blade can affect his rationality surprised him even more. What he needs is a weapon that he can fully control, not a weapon that will affect him in turn. What happened just now? Venom looked at the smooth cut surface on his hands and then looked at the frowning Rog and asked with a puzzled face. There is something wrong with this blade. Rog did not look up, His eyes were fixed on the black blade in his hand, and answered in a serious tone. "You go out first, I need to deal with the problem of this blade." After that, Rog inserted the black blade on the floor of the training room and sat down directly. Although Venom did not know what happened, after seeing Rog's actions, he did not hesitate and left the training room without looking back. After taking a few deep breaths, the 3 tomo patterns in Rog's eyes changed into a kaleidoscope pattern. He was now certain that this black saber possessed the characteristics of a living being. Although this seemed a bit unimaginable, it was the truth. In simpler words, this is a unique life form with the shape of a blade. When the black blade swallowed chakra, he already felt that something was wrong. The moment the black blade tried to affect his rationality, he was even more certain of this speculation. "Come out, I know you are in there." Rog's body surged out light blue chakra and wrapped the black blade, and at the same time, he controlled chakra to carefully explore the interior of the black blade. Not willing to respond? Then don't blame me for forcing you out. Since chakra could not be forced out, he would use the kaleidoscope's eye power. He had done some special research on strengthening and using eye power. As for why he suddenly went to study eye power, it was a rather boring question. After plundering the ability of quantum teleportation from Gordon, he was considering a problem: how to use Tsukuyomi on targets without eyes. Although there were no people on Earth who were born without eyes, it might be possible if the scope was expanded to the entire universe. There were many races in the universe, and it was not impossible for 1 or 2 races to be born without eyes. Therefore, he began the research of using Tsukuyomi on targets without eyes. Of course, the research failed. Tsukuyomi's characteristics determined that this eye power could only be used on targets with eyes. The research failed, but during the research process, he inexplicably began the research of eye power. Or rather, the research of how to further increase the range of eye power. Eye power, as the name implied, was the power of the eyes and could only be used through the eyes. Unlike Tsukuyomi, there weren't many restrictions on the use of eye power. Regardless of whether the other party had eyes or not, eye power could be used on the target. From this level, the kaleidoscope's eye power was somewhat similar to the psyche power that had been mutated by the Manjikyu Sharingan. As for psyche power, it could be used on all living beings. Regardless of whether the other party had eyes or not, regardless of the other party's racial form, psyche power could be used as long as the other party was a life form with a soul. What Rog was doing now was to use the kaleidoscope's eye power as psyche power. He used the kaleidoscope's eye power to force out the fellow who was unwilling to appear. Chapter 298. Theoretically speaking, there is no problem in using the eye power as spiritual force. But after all, this is the first time Rog has done this, so he is not very sure what the final result will be. But even if it fails, there won't be any serious consequences. At worst, he will just have to find another way. Under the control of Rog, the invisible eye power began to slowly enter the black sword in front of him, as if it entered the body of a real creature. When the eye power of the Manjikyu Sharingan entered the black sword, Rog finally found a hidden consciousness in the deepest corner of the black sword. "Found you!" After discovering this hidden consciousness, Rog didn't hesitate and immediately controlled the eye power to wrap this consciousness, and then pulled this consciousness into the consciousness space that he has already prepared. In the consciousness space with the red moon, Rog saw the consciousness inside the black sword, and saw this consciousness that tried to influence the user. Unlike the life he has seen before, the consciousness that appeared in front of him at this time was not the appearance of a living creature, but a dark rectangular light gate. The black light gate is 2 meters wide and 5 meters high. The surface is very smooth, and the thickness is like a paper. Looking at the black light gate floating above the ground, Rog frowned again. What's going on? This thing doesn't look like a living thing at all. How did it gain consciousness? Can this thing really communicate? Although his mind was full of doubts, Rog slowly came to the black light gate, raised his arm, and put his right hand on the black light gate. This consciousness space was built by him. Even if the black light gate is a threat, he can remove the consciousness space at any time to ensure the safety of his consciousness. When his right hand came in contact with the black light gate, Memories rushed out of the black light gate and forcibly poured into Rog's mind. These memories were like a movie played in reverse, quickly flashing through his mind. When he saw the first picture of these memories, Rog guessed the source of these memories. These memories were the memories of the suzerain symbiotic demons. Being thrown into the mold, King Kong Seal, Susanoo, seeing Rog for the first time. At this time, Rog was like watching 20 rewound movies at the same time, browsing the memories of these Lord-level symbiotic demons. From the experience in the mold, these rewound pictures continued to the moment when these Lord-level symbiotic demons were born. Just when Rog thought that these 20 rewound memories were going to disappear, the pictures in his mind suddenly changed, and the memories of the 20 Lord-level symbiotic demons instantly merged into a more primitive memory, and then began to rewind again. This time there is only one rewind picture, and the rewind time is much longer than the memories of these Lord-level symbiotic demons. Although Rog didn't know how these memories appeared, one thing he was certain of was that what he was browsing now was the entire history of the symbiotic demons. In the rewind picture, Rog saw the symbiotic demons fighting in the universe, saw the process of the formation of the symbiotic demon planet, saw the symbiotic demon god Nar imprisoned in the symbiotic demon planet. The symbiotic demon god Nar was actually imprisoned on this planet, and the symbiotic demon planet was his prison cell. Just when Rog thought that the rewind memories stopped there, the picture changed again. This time, the symbiotic demons that appeared in the rewind picture had a unified form, a unified dragon form. This symbiotic demon dragon army under Nar's lead went on a campaign in the universe, bringing calamity to many planets. Rog acutely sensed that the symbiotic demon god Nar had already lost the Black Death Sword at this time. When the long river of memories of the symbiotic demon dragon army was rewound, this strange rewind scene finally reached the final memory. In this memory, there were no symbiotic demons, only a completely black sword, the Black Death Sword. The Black Death Sword's rewind memories started with the natives of a nameless planet. Then it was Nar wielding the Black Death Sword and fighting all kinds of enemies. There were two scenes that caught Rog's attention. One was when Nar used the Celestial Group's blood flames to forge the Black Death Sword, and the other was when Nar used the Black Death Sword to cut off the Celestial Group's head. In particular, the scene of Nar using the Black Death Sword to cut off the Celestial Group's head left an indelible impression in Rog's mind. A war of slaying gods. This was a war of slaying gods in the truest sense. At the end of this memory rewind that lasted who knew how long, the symbiotic demon god Nar took out the Black Death Sword from the endless shadows of the void. When Rog opened his eyes again, what appeared in front of him was still that pitch-black door of light. His right hand was still on the black door of light. Rog didn't know how long the memory rewind lasted, and he didn't feel any fatigue or discomfort. The vast memories that had surged into his mind were now quietly waiting in a corner of his mind, waiting for him to flip through them again. Does this count as forcing the user to watch an advertisement? Rog inwardly criticized. I've finished looking through the memories. Shouldn't you show yourself? After retracting his right hand and waiting for a few seconds, the smooth surface of the black door of light rippled like water. Why did you have to come looking for me? The voice was a little immature, sounding like that of a little boy. Why did I have to come looking for you? Speaking of which, shouldn't you explain why you're trying to influence my rationality? Rog asked in return. If Black Blade hadn't tried to influence his actions, he wouldn't have made a trip here. Attacking the enemy's head can kill them faster. The Black Door of Light answered matter-of-factly. Even if you can get rid of the enemy faster, that doesn't mean you can influence my rationality. Do you understand? Right, what's your name? For some reason, Rog suddenly felt like he was trying to reason with a kindergartner. Name? I don't have a name. I was just born, and I haven't given myself a name yet. Just born? You have so many memories, and you're telling me that you were just born? Rog rolled his eyes at the Black Door of Light's answer. If he were to convert the memories that he had just rewound into time, the time span was at least billions of years, or even tens of billions of years. Under such circumstances, no one would believe that the Black Door of Light said that he had just been born. Those aren't my memories, and I don't know how they appeared. I only know that they were there when I was born. The black door of light sounded sincere, and it didn't sound like it was lying. Moreover, Rog suspected that the black door of light that had just been born might not know how to lie. Chapter 299. Although the black door of light's words didn't sound reliable, Rog chose to believe it in the end. The reason he chose to believe it was simple because the black door of light didn't need to lie about such things. If the black door of light chose to hide something, he didn't need to share those memories at all. Since you don't have a name, I'll give you one. The previous sword was called the Black Death Sword, then the newly born you will be called Blackie. Rog thought for a few seconds and gave the black door of light a simple and catchy name. Of course, if the black door of light didn't like the name Blackie, it could change it. Blackie? Your expression tells me that this name isn't as simple as it sounds. But it doesn't matter. Blackie it is. A name is just a code name. It doesn't matter if it's Blackie or Whitey. Unlike the childish tone, the black door of light's way of thinking was unusually mature. It didn't mind the extremely common name Blackie at all. I like the way you think. Back to the topic, why are you trying to affect my rationality? You should know very well that no one likes this feeling. Rog pulled the topic back and tried to figure out Blackie's true thoughts. If he knew Blackie's true intentions, he wouldn't mind creating a new black sword with its own consciousness. However, the prerequisite for all of this was that Blackie would listen to his arrangements obediently and not act on its own to affect his rationality. Slaughter, destruction, death, battle, conquest. These are the natural instincts of every symbiotic demon. Although symbiotic demons are living beings, they are different from other living beings. Symbiotic demons were created specifically for battle. This is also the main reason why Nar created them. Is there anything wrong with correcting the user's mistakes and allowing the user to kill the enemy with the least cost, the fastest speed, and the most effective method? Blackie didn't think there was anything wrong with him affecting the user's rationality. From his point of view, this was to increase the user's killing efficiency and allow the user to have more power. Do you know what it means to overstep your authority? You're just a weapon. You don't have the right to make decisions for the user. With the consent of the user, there's no problem for you to do that. But you can't act on your own without permission. Do you understand? If it wasn't for Blackie's good attitude, Rog wouldn't have bothered to explain this to him. Other people might be able to tolerate Blackie's actions, but he would never allow such a thing to happen. Understood? You don't like others making decisions for you. You only like to be in control of everything. After a few seconds of silence, Xiao said slowly, "It's good that you understand. I don't mind your existence, but you must not try to influence me, including my rationality and everything in battle. If you can do that, perhaps we can become good partners." Little Black was easier to communicate with than he had imagined. Rog dismissed the idea of killing Little Black. Furthermore, according to the legends, a weapon having its own consciousness was the prerequisite for becoming a divine weapon. Although this kind of saying only existed in legends and some online novels, who could guarantee that it wasn't true? No problem. But I hope that when you don't need to fight or use me, I can have the right to move freely. Sure. After reaching an agreement with Little Black, Rog's consciousness returned to reality, and at the same time, he removed the chakra and eye power from the black blade. You can move freely for a while now. As soon as the voice fell, the black blade in front of Rog rose into the air, and then quickly transformed into a venom-like humanoid form. It can actually transform? He originally thought that Little Black's movement would be like the flying sword in Xianxia novels, but he didn't expect it to be the same as the symbiotic body. A black blade that can transform, this is very much like a symbiotic body. When Little Black, with a curious face, left the training room and fought with Venom, who was waiting outside the training room, Rog remembered a very important problem. He only gave Little Black a name, but forgot to give Black Blade a name. Although Black Blade is only Little Black's body, Black Blade also needs a name. Because he can't say to his enemies in the future, "Dying under my Little Black is the greatest honor in your life." You can lose the battle, but you can't not look cool. So, Rog thought very seriously for a few minutes, and then gave Black Blade a very fancy name, Northern Cold. Northern Cold Blade. Of course, except for Rog himself, others may not understand what Northern Cold means, but this doesn't affect him from naming Black Blade Northern Cold. People always like to recall the past when they are old. Rog sighed silently. The Black Death Sword plan was successful, and the symbiotic body has been captured. As for the symbiotic body god, Nar, who is imprisoned on the symbiotic body planet, Rog wisely chose to come back next time. With his current strength, he is not an opponent of the symbiotic body god Nar for the time being. The coordinates of the symbiotic body planet have been recorded by Hinata. If she wants to come back, she can come back at any time, so there is no hurry. Hinata, let's start the return journey. Under Hinata's control, the Golden Jack sailed towards the nearest space jump point. However, before the Golden Jack reached the space jump point, Venom, who was beside Rog, suddenly turned into a mass of mucus and fell to the ground in pain. What's going on? Is he sick? He has left the radiation range of the symbiotic body planet. He needs a host. Xiaohei glanced at Venom and said with a calm face. Rog froze for a moment because he completely forgot about this matter. Just as he was about to take out a container from the psychic scroll to empty a room for Venom, Xiaohei suddenly came in front of Venom and pierced his sharp right claw directly into Venom's body. Rog wasn't worried that Xiaohei would hurt Venom. In front of him, Xiaohei didn't have such courage. In front of Rog's curious look, Xiaohei's body surged with energy and flowed into Venom's body along his right claw. In just a few seconds, Venom changed from a mucus form back to his original appearance. How did you do it? As soon as he changed back to his original appearance, Venom immediately asked Xiaohei. It's not a big deal, I just helped you overcome the congenital defect of needing a host to survive. Xiaohei's face was still calm. Overcome the congenital defect of the symbiotic body needing a host to survive? In Xiaohei's eyes, this is a trivial matter. But in the eyes of Rog and Venom, this is a major event that has changed the entire survival mode of the symbiotic body. Except for the symbiotic body planet, the symbiotic body needs a host to survive, which is the origin of the name symbiotic body. Without this defect, it means that the biggest weakness of the symbiotic body has been eliminated. A symbiotic body that can survive without a host, can it still be considered a symbiotic body? Chapter 300. Can all symbionts overcome this defect? After a few seconds of silence, Rog asked Xiaohei. If Xiaohei can really make the symbionts move freely without a host, then the symbionts in the summon scroll may be used to build a good symbionts army. In the beginning, he intended to use the captured symbionts as raw materials for the Black Death Sword plan. But now he has Xiaohei, so those symbionts have been temporarily put aside. Not all symbionts can do it. To overcome this defect, you must at least reach the strength of the Lord level, and it must be the stronger strength of the Lord level. Xiaohei said unhurriedly, making Rog's symbionts army plan fail before it is implemented. Symbionts can indeed combine with hosts of different races, but this does not mean that the symbionts have no requirements for the parasitic host. If the host does not match the symbionts, the parasitic host will die. This is a bit like an organ transplant. Only when there is a perfect match, there will be no rejection. Okay, that's all right. After nearly 10 hours of long flight and several consecutive space jumps, the Golden Jack finally returned to the outer space where the Earth is located. After the Golden Jack entered stealth, Rog returned to Konoha's headquarters with Venom and Xiaohei. After returning to Konoha's headquarters, Venom, who has the ability to survive on his own, thought seriously for a few minutes and finally chose to stay with Eddie. Rog didn't say anything about Venom's choice. Although Venom and Eddie are of the same gender, who knows if Venom thinks so? After Venom left, Rog asked Hinata to take out 3 containers from the summon scroll and asked her to arrange for them to be sent to the Osborn building, and sent an email to Harry Osborn. Harry Osborn showed kindness last time. In return, Rog intends to send him 3 symbionts, which is a reciprocity between them. After taking out all the remaining symbionts containers and asking Hinata to inform Dr. Connors to conduct research on the symbionts, Rog returned to his room. As for Xiaohei, Rog gave him the right to move freely in Konoha's headquarters and let him have his own fun. He has a new weapon, the Northern Cold Sword, and Susanoo has also been tested. The unconsumed ninja coins increased to 885, and he also brought back a full 100 army-level symbionts. This time's trip to the symbionts planet was pretty good overall. However, at this time, Rog was still not satisfied. After the trip to the symbiotic demon planet, especially after fighting with the Lord-level symbiotic demons whose recovery ability was so high that it was completely unreasonable, he increasingly felt that the bodies of Earthlings were a little too weak. Although he did not suffer any injuries during the fight, it still evoked the thought of strengthening his body. In terms of bloodline, he is a pure Earth. Although he is the Earth, of the Earth, of the Earth, of the Earth. He has no plans to change his bloodline, nor does he intend to give up on further strengthening his body. With the resources he has now, there are many ways to strengthen his body. Both Extremis and Spider Serum can strengthen the body to a certain extent. If he doesn't want to inject these super serums, symbionts are also an option. Although the effects of these methods are immediate, they are not particularly in line with his requirements. In particular, the symbiont's parasitism method was ruled out by him for the first time. Since none of these works, he can only continue to focus on ninjutsu or the sage body. After thinking about it, he finally chose the most primitive and most reliable plan. Continue to develop the sage body, and develop it to the level that Hashirama had reached. But in this way, another small problem has arisen. Although he has not stopped practicing the sage body, he has encountered a bottleneck after the sage body was upgraded to the current stage. The amount of chakra of the sanbai is the limit he can reach at present. Conventional practice has made it difficult to further improve the amount of chakra, and if the amount of chakra stops increasing, the progress of the development of the sage body will slow down. Exchange for in QB or yang QB, and use the amount of chakra of QB to forcefully promote the improvement of the sage body. Since conventional means are useless, then he will use some unconventional means. Hinata, sort out the previous commissions and pick 4 of them. I plan to go out and relax. Although Hinata has become his personal assistant, there are still some secrets that only he knows. For example, the commission must be judged to get ninja coins. Okay. It didn't take long for Hinata to virtually project the selected commissions into Rog's room. I'll take these 4. In the following month, Rog resumed his old business and executed the commissions of his clients. His luck was good, and the 4 commissions that were selected passed the judgment of the system, allowing him to get 145 ninja coins as commission reward. Unconsumed ninja coins, 1030. Looking at the unconsumed ninja coins in the attribute panel for the first time, Rog sighed, then opened the system's exchange page and swiped to the Bijou exchange page. Unlike the exchange icons on other pages, the icons on the Bijou exchange page are all dark gold, which symbolizes high-level exchange. From Ichibi to Jubi, there are a total of 11 exchange icons. Among them, there are 2 exchange icons for QB, In QB and Yang QB. Although the exchange icon for Jubi was also there, the exchange price of 10,000 ninja coins under the icon made Rog directly ignore it. 10,000 ninja coins, even if he sold himself, he wouldn't be worth this price. Rog roughly calculated that from the time he crossed to the present, all the ninja coins he got added up to just over 2,000. In QB or Yang QB, this is the question. If he remembers correctly, Naruto has Yang QB, and Yandame Hokage has In QB. Although from the name, In QB is more suitable for him. But Yang QB and Sannin are obviously more compatible. After thinking about it for more than a minute, Rog finally made a decision. Exchange for Yang QB. Use Yang QB's chakra to forcefully promote the promotion of Sannin. When he pressed the exchange icon symbolizing Yang QB, he only had 30 ninja coins left, and Yang QB's exchange icon disappeared. Before he closed the exchange page, a majestic chakra descended on him, filling his whole body. Chapter 301. This majestic chakra appeared and disappeared quickly. Roger didn't have time to use his own chakra, and the feeling of swelling disappeared like a balloon that was about to burst. At the same time, a powerful sealing force appeared on his abdomen. Pulling open his shirt, Rog saw the familiar seal pattern. The 8-trigram seal. The system not only sent the Yang 9 tails, but also the 8-trigram seal. Looking at the 8-trigram seal on his abdomen, Rog hesitated for a few seconds, then controlled his consciousness to enter the seal. It was exactly the same as the sealed space in his memory, a huge metal door, and the word seal in the middle of the door. Inside the door lay an orange fox. It was a fox with 9 tails. Up until now, everything seemed normal, but Rog keenly felt that something was wrong. There was nothing wrong with the 8-trigram seal's sealed space, and there was nothing wrong with the 9 tails chakra, but there was something wrong with the 9 tails. A tailed beast was a chakra-materialized life form with a tail. The tail was a characteristic, the chakra-materialized form was the body, and the life form was the essence. However, the 9 tails sealed in the door did not seem to be an intelligent life form. Instead of saying that the 9 tails was sealed inside, it was more accurate to say that the 9 tails chakra was sealed inside. From the outside, the thing sealed inside the door was no different from the 9 tails. It had sharp claws, sharp teeth, realistic fur, bright eyes, and a natural breath. However, the thing inside did not give Rog the feeling of an intelligent life form. No, not only was it an intelligent life form, it was not even considered a conscious life form. There was no problem with the 9 tails chakra, but what about the 9 tails consciousness? Without consciousness, how could I understand each other, and where could I establish a bond? Was the door to the perfect Jinchuriki completely closed before it was even opened? There must be something wrong. This 9 tails is very different from what I imagined. Without any hesitation, Rog immediately exited the space of consciousness, quickly opened the character panel in the system, and found the Jinchuriki column. Jinchuriki, QB Jinchuriki, Resonance Level 3. After reading the system's explanation of the progress of Jinchuriki and resonance, Rog finally figured out what was going on. The system can't exchange any characters in Naruto's world. Although creatures and tailed beasts are not within this restriction, the creatures and tailed beasts won't have wisdom. This meant that the redeemed tailed beasts would not have their original consciousness. Of course, the system considerately took into account the various sequelae caused by the tailed beast's lack of consciousness, such as the perfect Jinchuriki, borrowing the power of the tailed beast, and so on. Therefore, the system changed the so-called understanding and fetters to resonance. The higher the resonance, the more power he could draw from the tailed beasts. When the degree of resonance reaches the number of the tail of a tailed beast, it can become a perfect Jinchuriki. In other words, when Rog's resonance with QB reaches 9, he can become a perfect Jinchuriki. Although the system provided a reasonable solution, Rog was still somewhat dissatisfied. He felt that he had encountered a profiteer. Shouldn't this kind of thing be reminded in advance? After a helpless sigh, Rog's consciousness entered the sealed space again and came to the front of QB. He originally planned to have a conversation with QB, but now it seems that this is completely unnecessary. Because only biological instincts are retained, the QB in front of him, to a certain extent, can be equivalent to a real fox. When Rog looked at QB in the door, QB also sat up and looked at Rog curiously. After looking at QB for more than 10 seconds, Rog sighed again. This feeling of looking at a fool is really stupid. No, I'm a fool. I even fantasized about a real QB. After leaving the sealed space, Rog opened the character panel again and glanced at his current chakra amount. Chakra amount, 6 tails, 3 main body, 3 bijou. Now, Rog finally determined one thing. That is, the unit used by the system to measure chakra amount is not the tail of other bijou, but half of the QB's tail. He previously thought that his Sanbai chakra amount is equivalent to the Sanbai chakra amount. Yang QB plus In QB is the complete QB. According to the system's algorithm, the complete QB's chakra amount is 18 tails. His current chakra amount is 6 tails, which is equivalent to 1/3 of the complete QB. It feels like the amount of chakra is even less. Forget it, don't think about it. The more I think about it, the more sad I feel. In the next half a month, Rog didn't go anywhere and stayed in Konoha to concentrate on digesting the QB he had just obtained. Now, he feels that he is not the QB's Jinchuriki at all, but a QB chakra power bank. Although it's very different from what he imagined, he guessed one thing right. The increase in chakra amount has indeed led to the further development of the sage body. Under the stimulation of the QB's Sanbai chakra amount, his sage body has been further improved. The improvement of the sage body has led to the growth of his own chakra amount. The growth of his own chakra amount has increased the resonance of the bijou and the chakra amount of bijou. The QB chakra, the sage body, and his own chakra, these three have formed a good positive cycle, allowing him to grow 2 bijou chakra and 1 bijou chakra in just half a month. Chakra amount, 9 tails, 5 main body, for bijou. When he finished this boring chakra amount growth training, he felt a little different. In Blackie's words, the current him looked very strong. After half a month of life on Earth, Black has completely integrated into Konoha. He even went to Konoha's hidden village on Tatooine and worked as a construction worker for a few days. Dr. Connors is studying the symbiote and found several suitable personnel in the Umbu department to complete the first batch of symbiote soldiers. Punisher and Abomination are training newcomers, and Red Tank and Moonlight Stone are performing tasks. Daisy, Walter, and Pietro formed a team of superheroes, helping Konoha gain reputation. Eddie and Venom went back to San Francisco, but before leaving, Eddie registered his information in Konoha and became an expatriate of Konoha. Hinata manages the big and small affairs of Konoha's headquarters and supervises the establishment of Konoha's hidden village. Except for Black and Rog, everyone has their own things to do, except for the two of them. Black, do you have any goals in life? Sitting on the top of Konoha's headquarters building, Rog looked at the sunset in the distance and asked Black without looking back. Chapter 302. Life Goal? Shouldn't you be the one to decide for me? Although I maintain a human form all day long, I am just a weapon. Weapons don't need to consider life goals. Xiaohei turned his head and glanced at Rog, answering in a calm tone. Since returning to Earth, Xiaohei has been in a state of free movement, so until now, he still maintains a human form, or the form of a miniature version of Venom. Except for Rog, Hinata, and others, no one has seen Xiaohei's Real Northern Cold Blade form. Therefore, no one knows that Xiaohei is actually a weapon, a new weapon created by Rog. I feel that I may have lost my way on the road of life recently. I have a feeling that I can't lift my spirits no matter what I do. It seems that I can do anything, and I can't do anything. I used to think about becoming stronger, but after I really became stronger, I didn't know what the use of having this power was. I have no interest in maintaining world peace. Protecting the people around me, they are safe, and they don't need my protection. I can't even find something that can make me excited now. Looking at the slowly setting sun in the distance, Rog said weakly, a look of confusion appeared on his face. According to the knowledge I have recently learned, your current state should be called the salted fish state. I don't know how you can lift your spirits, but if it were me, I might choose to find someone to fight. There is nothing that can't be solved by fighting. If there is, then fight again. Although this method is simple and crude, it is very effective. As far as I know, those symbiotic demons who are bored and have no direction in life solve their psychological problems in this way. Although Xiaohei has just been born, his mind is far beyond his age. This is why Rog asked him to come to the top of the building to watch the sunset. There are indeed a few people on Earth that I can't afford to provoke, but they won't come to me for trouble, and I don't want to trouble them. As for the others, they are too weak, and there is no excitement in fighting. As soon as Rog finished speaking, Xiaohei raised his right hand with sharp claws and slapped him on the back of his head. That's enough. You're actually being pretentious. Do you see the sun over there? Do you know what it means when the sun sets? Ignoring Rog's astonishment, Blackie pointed to the sun in the distance and said, "It means that night is coming, and today is coming to an end." Rog didn't know what Blackie wanted to do, but he still chose to answer. After hearing Rog's answer, Xiaohei looked into the distance and said seriously, I don't know why you've suddenly become confused. I only know that every time the sun sets, it will rise again and start a new day. You're the most powerful being among all the creatures I've met so far. You have a power that many people yearn for. Perhaps to you, this power seems to be useless. However, there are many people who would rather give up their lives for 100th or 1,000th of your power. You're a typical example of someone who doesn't know how lucky they are. You're just like those second-generation rich kids who don't want to improve themselves. All day long, they think this is boring and that is meaningless. Isn't it just that you don't have the energy to do anything? Isn't it just that you don't have a direction in life? Since you know you don't have one, then go and find one. Just like you said, there are some existences on Earth who are stronger than you. Then you can make yourself stronger than them. If you can't find an opponent on Earth, then go to the universe to find one. If you can't find one in the universe, then go to other worlds to find one. If you don't want to walk the path of becoming stronger, then go and experience life. Experience a life that you've never experienced before and see how others spend their lives. If you don't even want to experience life, if you don't want to do anything, then you can talk to me. I can help you solve this problem completely. The more Blackie spoke, the more excited he became. At this point, he even turned his right hand into the shape of the northern cold saber and directly pressed it against Rog's throat. I, Blackie, although I'm just a weapon, I'm also a weapon with dignity and pursuit. My master can be weak, can have flaws, and can have many shortcomings. But he can't not strive for improvement, can't abandon himself, and can't blame others. I'm very disappointed in your current state, very disappointed. Blackie was completely agitated. After he finished speaking, he grabbed Rog's collar and lifted him up. If you make such a pretentious move again, I'll be the first to chop you up. This was the first time Rog experienced the feeling of being threatened by someone, especially when the person threatening him was his own weapon. To be despised by his own weapon, this was really a rare experience. Ha ha ha, Rog, who was lifted up by Blackie, suddenly laughed. The more he laughed, the louder and crazier he laughed. He was laughing like a clown. What's wrong with this guy? Did he suddenly lose his mind? Recalling Rog's bored and confused expression just now, Blackie had some bad thoughts. Looking at Rog, who was laughing so hard that tears were about to come out of his eyes, Blackie couldn't help but swallow his saliva. He slowly put down Rog. Rog, who was put down, didn't show any signs of recovering. Instead, he laughed more and more agitatedly. He hugged his head tightly with both hands, and his whole body couldn't help but twitch. Could it be that he had really gone crazy? How can someone with such great strength be so mentally weak? It's over, it's completely over. I shouldn't have provoked him. I was just born not long ago. I don't want to change masters yet. Speaking of which, that earthling woman called Walter is not bad. She has great strength hidden in her. It should be good to have her as my master. But she doesn't look like she knows how to use a sword, and she doesn't seem to be good at close combat either. Should I look for that woman called Daisy? She's not bad either. She seems to be good at close combat. Just as Blackie's mind was filled with random thoughts, and he even started to evaluate Walter and Daisy to see who was more suitable to be his new master, Rog's crazy laughter became softer and softer. Is he going to return to normal? Just as Blackie's gaze returned to Rog, a right hand wrapped in red chakra appeared in front of him at lightning speed and grabbed his neck tightly. I'm not dead yet, and you're already thinking about changing masters? Aren't you being a little too disrespectful to me? At this moment, Rog was covered in red chakra, which was as red as blood. There were also 4 fox-like chakra tails behind him. Chapter 303. Rog's tone was very calm, but Xiaohei felt an inexplicable pressure. He was really angry. Although Xiaohei didn't have much life experience, he could still feel if a person was really angry. Moreover, Rog's right hand was still tightly gripping his neck. Rog's right hand didn't use much strength, but the red chakra on his right hand was like a seal, sealing Xiaohei's transformation ability. That, I was just casually thinking about it. No, it wasn't just thinking about it, it was just a random thought. Yes, it was just a random thought. My mind was just uncontrollably letting my imagination run wild. Xiaohei explained in a hurry. He hadn't been following Rog for long, but he knew one thing very clearly. Once Rog got angry, the consequences would be very serious. At this time, although Rog looked normal, the feeling he gave off was not normal at all. Not to mention the inexplicable appearance of the red chakra coat on his body, just the four tails behind him waving at will has already made Xiaohei feel great pressure. It wasn't that Xiaohei hadn't felt Rog's chakra before, but the red chakra that appeared now gave off a completely different aura from before. If the light blue chakra that Rog showed before gave off the feeling of a vast and calm sea, then the red chakra now gave off the aura of a terrifying volcano that was on the verge of eruption. Xiaohei didn't know what happened to Rog. He couldn't even tell if Rog had regained his sanity or gone completely crazy. The only thing he could be sure of now was that the current Rog was very dangerous, extremely dangerous, like a ferocious beast that chose people to devour. Looking at Xiaohei, who was at a loss and scared, Rog released his right hand and removed the nine-tailed chakra on his body. Although he looked very abnormal just now, the truth was that he had been clear-headed from the beginning to the end. The crazy laughter just now was also the same. After being despised and threatened by his own weapon, he realized how stupid he had been just now. All he did was possess half a nine-tailed beast and increase the amount of chakra to nine-tailed beast. Yet, he actually had the idiotic thought that life was very confusing. What Xiaohei said was right. Since he knew that he didn't have a target, he had to find one. There were still big shots on Earth that he couldn't deal with, and there were also powerful existences in the universe that he couldn't deal with. With his current strength, he wasn't even worth mentioning in front of the real big shots. Compared to those who were inferior to him, he indeed could not find the meaning of continuing to strengthen himself. He felt lost. He felt that he could not find the meaning of continuing to become stronger. That was because he had mistaken the target of comparison. Pointing a knife at me and lifting me up, I don't want it to happen again. After saying that, Roger ignored Xiaohei, who had a confused look on his face, and left the top floor of the building. Although Blackie's mind was very mature, he had to admit that he couldn't keep up with Rog's rhythm. What was wrong with the people on Earth these days? They could go crazy or sober as they wished. Humans were really troublesome. Cursing in his heart, Xiaohei silently followed Rog, wanting to see what he was going to do when he suddenly went crazy and sober. After leaving the top of the building, Rog went straight back to his office and opened a piece of information that the intelligence department had already collected. A burning motorcycle and a skull, and a messenger of hell who punishes evil. In the past few months, a new urban legend had appeared in Houston. The legend of Ghost Rider. Every night, a messenger of hell on a motorcycle would appear and punish the criminals who deserved it. Before the Avengers and aliens appeared, few people would believe such a story that didn't seem very reliable. But now, the people of Houston didn't doubt the authenticity of this story at all. There were superheroes and aliens, so it wasn't impossible for a messenger of hell to appear. More importantly, the people of Houston had really seen this legendary Ghost Rider after night fell. Actually, it was hard not to see it. After all, the combination of a burning skull and a motorcycle was too eye-catching. What's more, this Ghost Rider was a classic road wrecker. As long as this skeleton-like motorcycle drove past, it would leave an extremely obvious burn mark on the ground. Because of this extremely obvious characteristic, there were even fanatics in Houston who specialized in tracking Ghost Rider. Who is this guy? Xiaohei looked at Ghost Rider on the screen and asked curiously. Ghost Rider, the messenger of Mephisto, the Lord of Hell, and a knight who specializes in harvesting the souls of criminals. Rog gave a simple explanation. Information on Ghost Rider had been collected long ago, and as Ghost Rider continued to move out, there were more and more videos and pictures. At that moment, Rog was browsing through the latest sighting report of Ghost Rider. Are you going to kill him? Although Xiaohei didn't know much about Ghost Rider and Mephisto, he still understood the term Lord of Hell. No, I'm just going to kill him. I want him to take me to hell. Looking at Rog's serious expression, Xiaohei suddenly felt that Rog might not have recovered yet and was still crazy. Xiaohei had never been to hell before, and he had only recently learned the word hell. But there was one thing he knew very well, and that was that when a human said that they wanted to go to hell, they were basically not normal. Whether it was hell or heaven, they were absolutely forbidden zones for normal humans. People who said such things were no different from people who said that they wanted to become God. They were all crazy. Hinata, hack into Houston's public surveillance system. I want to know where Ghost Rider will appear tonight. With that, Rog picked up the sunglasses on the table and grabbed Xiaohei. The brilliant light of quantum teleportation instantly lit up. I don't want to go to hell. Before Xiaohei could say anything, the light of quantum teleportation lit up on the roof of a building in Houston. In an instant, Rog and Xiaohei arrived in Houston from Konoha's headquarters in Washington. Well, symbiotic demons have a weakness of fire, so do you mind sending me back? Xiaohei stood behind Rog and asked cautiously. A stronger lord can overcome the weakness of fire. Even Venom can do it, so there's no way you can't do it. It's just some hellfire, it won't hurt you. As for Blackie's suggestion, Rog rejected it without hesitation. Other symbiotic demons might be afraid of fire, but Xiaohei was definitely not. If he had such an obvious weakness, he would have died on the Golden Jack. Chapter 304. Little Black was Rog's main weapon for a long time to come. If Little Black's quality wasn't good enough, Rog would have taken him back to the furnace long ago. I'm starting to regret enlightening you. Now that I think about it, there's nothing wrong with being a salted fish. Little Black said helplessly. As a weapon forged from the Black Death Sword, he naturally wasn't afraid of fire, but that didn't mean he could ignore any fire damage. Hellfire, this kind of fire didn't sound simple. Time passed little by little, and when it was 10 o'clock at night, a map of Houston appeared on Rog's sunglasses. On the map, there was a red dot moving quickly. Although Hinata didn't say anything, it was obvious that the moving red dot was the legendary Ghost Rider. Transform back into the form of the Northern Cold Blade. We're going to work. Little Black glanced at Rog and quickly transformed back into the original form of the Northern Cold Blade, hanging on Rog's belt. Rog hadn't made any scabbard for the Northern Cold Blade, and Little Black didn't like the feeling of being stuck in a scabbard. Using Little Black's own words to describe it, it was a kind of shameful play. Rog respected Little Black's request. Even without a scabbard, he didn't need to worry about the Northern Cold Blade accidentally hurting him. Little Black was very self-aware of this. After determining the direction Ghost Rider was heading, Rog used quantum teleportation to leave the top of the building and arrive on the path Ghost Rider had to take. At this moment, Rog wasn't the only one chasing after Ghost Rider. The Ghost Rider enthusiasts and the Houston police officers were also hunting this legendary figure. The thoughts of these enthusiasts were very simple. For them, Ghost Rider was their idol, and they were a group of fans chasing after their idol. As for the police in Houston, Ghost Rider was a huge problem. After the appearance of Ghost Rider, law and order in Houston had improved significantly. In particular, the number of crimes on the streets at night had dropped to an unprecedented low. The crime rate had dropped, and public security had improved. Logically speaking, the Houston police should be very grateful to Ghost Rider. But the problem was that Ghost Rider's punishment was too brutal. As long as it was a criminal punished by Ghost Rider, they would all die without exception. Although the police in Houston didn't know what the trial's eye was, and didn't know what the hellfire was, they knew that they were in trouble when they saw the scorched eyes of the criminals. America was a country that nominally pursued democracy and freedom, which meant that this country had an almost paranoid pursuit of so-called human rights. Criminals also had human rights. Furthermore, Ghost Rider's act of killing criminals without trial was something that the police hated. Chasing after criminals and cracking down on crime was no problem. This was what most superheroes did. However, acting as a judge to judge criminals and depriving them of their lives was absolutely not allowed. Thus, in the eyes of the police, Ghost Rider wasn't a superhero, but a violent criminal who used his superpowers to wantonly kill criminals. Yes, in the eyes of the police, Ghost Rider was also a criminal, and a criminal with extraordinary powers at that. Thus, every night that Ghost Rider appeared, there would be this phenomenon of fanatical fans and the police working together to track down Ghost Rider. Rog knew about this phenomenon when he browsed through the information on Ghost Rider. But he didn't take it to heart at all, and he didn't even plan to use a transformation technique to change his appearance. Konoha was handling matters, and unrelated people should disperse. Ever since Konoha displayed unprecedented dominance when hunting down Hydra, this concept had begun to take root in people's hearts. Anyone who knew a little about Konoha knew that all of Konoha's actions had an extremely high collateral damage index. This meant that if someone was affected by Konoha's actions because of curiosity or other reasons, Konoha didn't have to bear any responsibility. And until now, no one knew how high Konoha's collateral damage index was. In any case, Konoha had never received any official punishment or condemnation for collateral damage. Over time, no one was willing to use their lives to test the upper limit of this collateral damage index. After using quantum transmission to arrive at the main road that Ghost Rider had to pass through, Rog took off the sunglasses connected to the satellite and waited silently for Ghost Rider's arrival. Ghost Rider had been around for a long time, but Konoha's intelligence department had not yet investigated the true identity of Ghost Rider. They didn't know as much as Rog himself. Although there was only one Ghost Rider in Rog's memory, he wasn't sure if this Ghost Rider was the one in his memory until he saw the human face of this Ghost Rider. It didn't take long for Rog to see the motorcycle that was burning with hellfire and had an extremely obvious style, as well as the Ghost Rider in a black leather jacket on it. Sure enough, without skin and flesh, everyone's bones and heads looked the same. The galloping Ghost Rider also saw Rog in the middle of the road, but he showed no signs of slowing down and rushed straight at Rog. In the past few months, Ghost Rider had seen too many people trying to stop him. "Little Black, this is your first battle. Don't embarrass yourself." As soon as he said that, the northern cold blade in Rog's hand vibrated slightly, answering his question. Feeling the vibration of the northern cold blade, Rog smiled and slowly walked toward Ghost Rider. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. Rog walked toward Ghost Rider as if he was taking a leisurely stroll. In the distance, Ghost Rider drove the Hell motorcycle and rushed toward him like a meteor. 100 meters, 50 meters, 20 meters. When the Ghost Rider burning with hellfire was only 20 meters away, Rog raised the northern cold blade in his hand and slashed diagonally from top to bottom. Boom. The next second, there was a terrifying explosion like that of an intercontinental missile. Orange-red hellfire soared into the sky, the ground cracked, and a transparent shockwave spread out in all directions. The hellfire motorcycle that was speeding like a meteor came to a stop, and the front wheel spun wildly like a small burning sun. In front of the hellfire motorcycle was Rog, who was wearing a light blue chakra coat. The northern cold blade in his right hand viciously slashed at the front of the hellfire motorcycle. Visible cracks appeared on the devilish skull-like front of the motorcycle. Northern cold blade versus hellfire motorcycle. Northern cold blade wins. Chapter 305. The wheels of the hellfire motorcycle were still spinning madly, but Roger was like a mountain that stood still in the same spot. At this moment, it wasn't Rog who was blocking the hellfire, but the northern cold blade in his hand. All he was doing was providing a fulcrum for the northern cold blade. "Who are you?" After realizing that the hellfire motorcycle couldn't move forward no matter what, Ghost Rider finally spoke. "Konoha Rog." Rog introduced himself briefly. As for whether or not Ghost Rider knew who he was, it wasn't within his consideration. Hearing Rog introduce himself, Ghost Rider, who had no skin or flesh, tilted his head in confusion, as if trying to figure out who Rog was. While he was thinking, Ghost Rider stopped the hellfire, got off the motorcycle, which looked both good and practical, and slowly walked over to Rog. The hellfire stopped, and Rog put away the northern cold blade in his hand as he stared at Ghost Rider's eyes that were burning with hellfire. Rog wasn't worried that Ghost Rider would use the Trial's Eye against him. On the contrary, he was looking forward to it. He was a little curious about which was stronger, the Manjikyu Sharingan or the Trial's Eye. When Rog and Ghost Rider looked at each other, Ghost Rider's fanatical fans and the Houston police finally caught up. But when they saw that the person standing in front of Ghost Rider was the fourth Hokage, Rog, they couldn't help but stop in their tracks. Konoha's collateral damage was already deeply rooted in people's hearts, and very few people were willing to risk their lives to test this point. Although they didn't dare step forward, this didn't affect the fanatical fans filming. Phones were taken out one after another, and the cameras were aimed at Rog and Ghost Rider in the distance. Some fanatical fans even took out professional filming equipment and started filming seriously like frontline reporters. Compared with these fanatical fans, the Houston police clearly didn't have as much filming equipment. However, the Houston police had more advanced police helicopters. Under normal circumstances, these police helicopters were only suitable for capturing criminals. But now, these police helicopters had become the most professional reporters at the scene, sending the footage back to the police station. After the fanatical fans and the Houston police appeared one after another, the professional reporters appeared one after another. Interview helicopters from various newspapers and news channels also arrived at the scene. As more and more spectators gathered, Rog and Ghost Rider, who were the stars of the show, didn't seem to notice anything as they continued to look at each other. Rog didn't attack, and neither did Ghost Rider. Wearing a light blue chakra coat and orange-red hellfire, Rog and Ghost Rider sized each other up as if they were prey. Just as all the onlookers were wondering when the two of them would start fighting, Ghost Rider made the first move. A bone fist wrapped in hellfire flew straight at Rog's head. Although the speed of the bone fist was not fast, its strength was not small at all. In particular, the hellfire wrapped around his fist gave off a shockingly high temperature. If Ghost Rider wasn't attacking Rog right now, but an ordinary person, it would have been a headshot without a doubt. But Rog wasn't an ordinary person, and Ghost Rider's punch was too slow for him. After Ghost Rider punched, Rog raised his right hand and grabbed the hilt of the Northern Cold Saber. Then, he drew and swung the saber as fast as lightning. Even the high-speed cameras didn't catch Rog drawing his saber. The only thing they captured was Ghost Rider's bonehead flying high into the air. Not to mention the onlookers, even Ghost Rider himself didn't see how Rog drew his saber. It wasn't until his head flew up and the scene in his vision started to spin that Ghost Rider realized that his head had left his body. Hellfire gave Ghost Rider an immortal body, but it also deprived him of his normal senses. In Ghost Rider's form, he didn't have the sense of touch and taste that a normal human had, much less the so-called sense of pain. To some extent, this was a good thing, especially in battle. But at certain times, it would also bring some inconvenience, such as now. After sending Ghost Rider's head flying with one slash, Rog turned slightly to the side and dodged Ghost Rider's ferocious punch. Then he sent the headless body flying with a kick. Ghost Rider was indeed very strong, and Hellfire was indeed very powerful. But Ghost Rider's combat skills were also undeniably bad. Not to mention that Ghost Rider was now facing Rog, who had been through hundreds of battles and had almost perfect melee combat skills. Even if it was an ordinary Konoha warrior in front of him right now, they would still be able to crush him in terms of combat skills. Rog didn't know if Ghost Rider would become very good at fighting in the future. He only knew that the current Ghost Rider was a combat rookie who only had strength but didn't have much skill. Yes, he was just a rookie. Although his head had been separated from his body, with the help of Hellfire, Ghost Rider's body quickly recovered his head and then reattached it. After moving his reattached head, Ghost Rider took off the chain wrapped around his body and covered it with Hellfire. Although Ghost Rider was only left with a skeleton, it didn't mean that he really had no brain. Although he didn't have a formal fight with Rog, Ghost Rider knew very well that he was far from being Rog's opponent in melee combat. In that case, he would use chain technique, which he was better at, to deal with him. Although fighting with chains didn't look like much, it was also a skill. In particular, for Ghost Rider, this was a combat technique that required profound techniques. When the chain in his hand was wrapped in Hellfire, Ghost Rider didn't hesitate and attacked again. Unlike the previous straightforward attack, Ghost Rider, who used chain technique, finally looked a little bit like a warrior. The Hellfire chain attacked Rog like a viper, and the seemingly simple chain became extremely flexible in the hands of Ghost Rider. Clang, clang, clang. Before the Hellfire chain hit Rog, it was swung away one by the Northern Cold Sword in his hand, turning into an irregular arc. The Hellfire chain that was swung away didn't fall to the ground, nor was it taken back. It flew out of thin air and attacked Rog again. The orange-red Hellfire chain was constantly thrown at Rog, but Rog didn't move a step. He stood in place and swung the Northern Cold Sword again and again. In the eyes of the onlookers, Ghost Rider at this time was like a beast tamer who was taming a beast. And Rog was the beast baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. Chapter 306. From the looks of it, Ghost Rider had completely taken the initiative. Under his attack, Rog could only passively defend. But in fact, Rog was just testing the Northern Cold Saber's ability to take hits. Ever since he had created the Northern Cold Saber, he hadn't officially tested its ability, so he didn't mind testing it in actual combat. Little Black didn't have any objections to Rog's approach. As a weapon, he knew his duty very well. Moreover, when he was on the Golden Jack, Rog had already communicated with him about this. Ghost Rider's chain technique was indeed very exquisite, and could even be considered a pretty good offensive technique. But for Rog, Ghost Rider's chain technique was still a little too monotonous. There were only a few moves back and forth, and the only thing to note was that the angle of attack was different every time. After neutralizing Ghost Rider's chain attacks one by one, Rog finally ended his passive defense and began to take the initiative to attack. Water Release, Water Dragon Bullet. Rog raised his left hand slightly, and a water dragon dozens of meters long appeared out of thin air and rushed at Ghost Rider like lightning. It was common sense to use water to put out a fire. In the eyes of the onlookers, not only was there no problem with Rog's counterattack, it was also a very wise choice. However, both Rog and Ghost Rider knew very well that Hellfire wasn't an ordinary flame. It was purely wishful thinking to use Water Release to put out the Hellfire on Ghost Rider. The menacing water dragon crashed into Ghost Rider, and the huge impact made Ghost Rider involuntarily take a few steps back. Then there was nothing else. The Hellfire on Ghost Rider's body was still burning fiercely, and the water dragon quickly evaporated and shrank, turning into steam. The pervasive water vapor shrouded the Ghost Rider like a fog, causing it to completely disappear from everyone's sight. After Ghost Rider's figure was shrouded in the mist, the chain wrapped around the Hellfire was also withdrawn, as if guarding against Rog's sudden attack. The moment the Hellfire chain was withdrawn, Rog raised his right hand again, and silver-white lightning surged out of his palm. Lightning evasion, lightning palm. More than a dozen silver-white lightning bolts as thick as an arm attacked Ghost Rider like giant dragons. The loud thunderclaps made the surrounding crowd involuntarily take a few steps back, afraid that they would be affected by the lightning. Rumble. The thunder palm hit Ghost Rider in the mist without any suspense. The collision between the silver-white lightning and the Hellfire cleared the surrounding mist, and Ghost Rider's figure reappeared in front of everyone. Compared to before he disappeared, Ghost Rider's appearance had clearly changed. Hellfire could protect Ghost Rider himself, but it couldn't protect his clothes. Under the attack of the silver lightning, Ghost Rider's clothes were torn to shreds. Apart from the shoes on his feet, which were still intact, Ghost Rider's clothes and pants had all turned into pieces and fell to the ground. Wrapped in Hellfire, Ghost Rider's true form appeared in front of everyone for the first time. After seeing Ghost Rider's true form, people finally confirmed one fact: Ghost Rider really wasn't human. Although the Ghost Rider from before didn't look like a normal human, seeing a burning skull and seeing a burning human skeleton were two completely different concepts. Ghost Rider really was the legendary emissary of Hell. At this moment, no one would think that Ghost Rider was a human with extraordinary powers, but a true visitor from Hell. Making Ghost Rider run naked hadn't been Rog's original plan. He didn't have such a bad taste. He had used the Thunder Palm to attack Ghost Rider just to test if the lightning attribute could hurt Ghost Rider under the protection of Hellfire. It was purely a coincidence that his clothes had been torn to pieces. Although losing his clothes wouldn't affect Ghost Rider too much, after all, he was only a skeleton now. But after losing all his clothes, Ghost Rider still let out a beast-like howl and ran toward Rog. Ghost Rider was angry. Although he was just a skeleton now and didn't need to worry about being naked, this was a matter of dignity. Skeletons also needed dignity. For the sprinting Ghost Rider, the distance of dozens of meters was covered in the blink of an eye. It was only when Ghost Rider pounced on him like a hungry wolf that Rog moved again. Northern Cold Blade slashed out several times in an instant, and before Ghost Rider could touch Rog, he was instantly cut into pieces. The complete skeleton was instantly split into several pieces and fell to the ground. But the next second, the dismembered Ghost Rider got up again and pounced at Rog. With the undying body granted by Hellfire, Ghost Rider didn't need to care about Rog's attack at all. Not to mention being cut into pieces, even if Rog disassembled every bone of Ghost Rider could reassemble himself. Although Ghost Rider's attacks were fierce, they were useless in front of Rog. In the blink of an eye, Ghost Rider was dismembered again. Then the Ghost Rider stood up again, attacked again, and was dismembered once more. At this moment, Ghost Rider displayed unprecedented tenacity. Relying on its undying body, it turned the battle into a protracted battle. After knocking down Ghost Rider dozens of times, Rog finally got tired of this repetitive battle. A ball of chakra appeared in his left hand. Sealing spell, 4 symbols seal. When Ghost Rider stood up again, Rog arrived in front of him at lightning speed. He pressed his left hand on Ghost Rider's chest and pressed him to the ground. Boom! Ghost Rider fell to the ground with a loud bang, and the sealing power of the 4 symbols seal instantly flowed through his body. Sealing techniques were always a good choice for these enemies who had stronger vitality than cockroaches. The moment the 4 symbols seal took effect, Ghost Rider felt a powerful binding force that it had never felt before, and the hellfire burning on its body couldn't help but dim. It was absolutely impossible to completely seal Ghost Rider with just the 4 symbols seal. Ghost Rider's master was the Lord of Hell, Mephisto. If Ghost Rider was so easy to deal with, Ghost Rider wouldn't have become the strongest subordinate of the Lord of Hell. Before Ghost Rider, who was pressed to the ground, could resist, Rogue's eyes turned into Mangekyo Sharingan. Mangekyo Sharingan Dojutsu, boundless manifestation. Without any hesitation, when Ghost Rider's hellfire was at its weakest under the suppression of the 4 symbols seal, Rogue decisively activated the Mangekyo Sharingan's right eye. Chapter 307. This was the first time that Rogue had used omniscient phenomena on an uncooperative target. The last time he used it, he obtained the ability of quantum transmission from Gordon, which made up for his lack of teleportation. However, not only did Gordon not put up any resistance when he unleashed the boundless nature, he was even very cooperative. Unlike Gordon, Ghost Rider obviously had no intention of cooperating with Rogue. Although Ghost Rider didn't know what Rogue wanted to do, he instinctively sensed danger when he saw Rogue's Mangekyo Sharingan. Ghost Rider tried to resist Rogue's suppression, but the shackles of the 4 symbols seal completely cut off this idea. The powerful binding force of the 4 symbols seal not only dimmed the blazing hellfire, but also made it extremely difficult to control it. Hellfire, which could originally be controlled at will, seemed to have fallen into a sluggish state at this time, and its response time was greatly extended. Rogue ignored Ghost Rider's resistance. Whether Ghost Rider was willing or not, he would plunder Ghost Rider's hellfire. Hellfire was a supernatural flame that originated from the depths of hell. Not only did it have powerful attack power, but it also had its own enchantment ability. Ghost Rider's Hellfire motorcycle and Hell's chains were the products of Hellfire enchantment. And for Rogue, who planned to go to Hell, Hellfire was his ticket to Hell. Although the infinite mode he developed could also give him the ability to survive in various environments, in Hell, Hellfire was obviously more useful than his infinite mode. Therefore, whether it was from the perspective of enhancing his own strength or to go to Hell, he had to get Hellfire. Omniscient phenomena was used, and the eye power of the Mangekyo Sharingan began to cover Ghost Rider's body. As Ghost Rider struggled, the omniscient phenomena in Rogue's right eye devoured the hellfire on his body like a black hole. The ability plundered by omniscient phenomena wouldn't appear directly on Rog's body, but would be sealed in his right eye. Therefore, Rog didn't have to worry about hellfire burning his body and chakra. As for whether the hellfire would conflict with the quantum teleportation ability sealed in his right eye, he was not particularly worried for the time being. Only Gordon's quantum teleportation ability was sealed in his kaleidoscope's right eye. Even with Ghost Rider's hellfire, he only had 2 abilities. Plundering too many abilities could lead to a backlash, but since he had only plundered 2 abilities, he didn't need to worry about that for the time being. With his current ability, he had absolute confidence that he could safely contain the hellfire without any backlash. The plundering of omniscient nature didn't last long. To be precise, it only lasted for about a minute before it completely ended. When a trace of exhaustion and burning feeling came from his right eye, Rog removed the Mangekyo Sharingan and turned his eyes back to the 3 Tomo Sharingan. He was tired because he had used up too much eye energy. As for the burning sensation, it was a sign that the hellfire had been successfully plundered. After taking a deep breath, Rog's body emitted a brilliant aurora-like light. Quantum teleportation. He didn't want any onlookers to see what happened next, so he took Ghost Rider directly to a forest more than 100 kilometers away. As for whether Ghost Rider's hellfire motorcycle would be impounded by the Houston police, it wasn't within his consideration. And even if it was, Ghost Rider had a way to get it back, so he didn't have to worry about it at all. After teleporting to this unknown forest, Rog let go of Ghost Rider's left hand and let Ghost Rider, who had lost more than half of his hellfire, stand up. Because his hellfire had been plundered, Ghost Rider looked much weaker than before, and there was much less hellfire burning on his body. Until now, Ghost Rider still didn't know what Rog had done to him. The only thing he remembered was that he saw Rog's strange blood-red eyes, and then a part of the hellfire on his body inexplicably disappeared forever. If the upper limit of his hellfire before was 100, his current upper limit was only 50. As for the 50 that disappeared, it naturally went to Rog. At this thought, Ghost Rider looked at Rog with a strange gaze. To be precise, it wasn't his gaze. After all, he didn't have eyes in the normal sense, and there were only 2 balls of hellfire burning in his eye sockets. "What did you do to me?" Ghost Rider asked. Although he was already very familiar with hellfire, he still couldn't understand what had just happened. "Didn't you already feel it? I plundered your hellfire." As soon as he said that, Rog raised his left hand and summoned the hellfire that Ghost Rider was extremely familiar with. Looking at the hellfire in Rog's left hand, Ghost Rider fell into deep thought. He had always thought that hellfire was a power given to him by the Lord of Hell, Mephisto, and that it was a curse imposed on him after he signed the contract. But Rog proved that he was wrong. Rog didn't sign a contract with Mephisto, but he could also use hellfire. Moreover, Ghost Rider quickly realized that he was different from Rog. When he used hellfire, hellfire would burn his flesh and blood, turning him into a skeleton. But when Rog used hellfire, he could still maintain his human form, and his left hand was still in the normal form of flesh and blood. "How did you do it? Why can you maintain your human form?" Ghost Rider pointed at Rog's left hand and asked in confusion. "As long as the hellfire doesn't burn my body, it's fine, just like how you don't let the hellfire burn your clothes. And I'm different from you. I'm not Ghost Rider. I don't have your messy things in my body, either. I can maintain my human form if I want to," Rog explained casually. The reason why Ghost Rider was in the form of a skeleton was not only because of hellfire, but also because of their origins. Although hellfire was the signature power of Ghost Rider, its true power didn't come from hellfire, but from the spirit of vengeance. Only a Ghost Rider possessed by the spirit of vengeance was a true Ghost Rider. Therefore, Rog, who only used hellfire, had nothing to do with Ghost Rider, much less possess its skeleton form. Although Ghost Rider didn't quite understand the second half of what Rog said, he roughly understood why Rog could maintain his normal human form. Looking at Rog, who was no longer hostile, Ghost Rider removed the hellfire on his body and turned himself back into a human, a naked human. Chapter 308. The Ghost Rider burning with hellfire disappeared, and in its place was a middle-aged man who wasn't very strong. After sizing up the middle-aged man, Rog summoned a black coat from the summon scroll and threw it over. The moment Roger saw the middle-aged man, he recognized his identity. Johnny Blaze, a well-known motorcycle stunt driver, was famous for his death-seeking stunts. Before Konoha's intelligence department investigated the Ghost Rider, Rog had already noticed Johnny. But at that time, Johnny didn't show any abnormalities, so he didn't pay too much attention to him. Although Johnny was the most famous Ghost Rider, he wasn't the only one who could become the Ghost Rider. After all, no one could guarantee that the Lord of Hell, Mephisto, would choose Johnny. As the Lord of Hell, Mephisto could sign a contract with anyone he wanted. Johnny just happened to appear in Mephisto's line of sight at the right time. "What exactly do you want from me?" After putting on the black coat that Rog had thrown over, Johnny asked. In the form of the Ghost Rider, he didn't remember Rog's identity. But after returning to his human form, when his human rationality completely returned, he immediately recognized Rog's identity. The director of Konoha's intelligence department, the fourth Hokage of the superhero, no matter which identity it was enough to make Johnny pay 120% attention. Although Johnny hadn't had any contact with Konoha, he had heard of Konoha's domineering style. "It's not a big deal, I just want you to take me to hell," Rog said casually, his tone so flat that it was as if he was talking about when to leave for a trip. Through Panorama, he had plundered Hellfire from Johnny, but this wasn't enough for him to go to hell. Hellfire was like a train ticket, and Ghost Rider was the train to hell. Go to hell? Are you kidding me? For others, hell was a fictional world that only existed in legends. But for Johnny, hell was real, because Mephisto, who had turned him into what he was now, came from hell. Do I look like I'm joking? Although I plundered your Hellfire, only Ghost Rider can freely travel between hell and the human world. So, if I want to go to hell, I need your help, Rog said with a serious face. If it wasn't for the fact that he couldn't find another way to go to hell, he wouldn't have needed to look for Johnny. I'm sorry, I can't help you. Although I know about the existence of hell, I have never been to hell, and I don't want to go to hell. After a few seconds of silence, Johnny gave his answer and rejected Rog's suggestion. Because of the Lord of Hell, Mephisto, Johnny wasn't interested in anything related to hell. If he could, he even wished that he had never known about the existence of hell. He wished that he had never met the Lord of Hell, Mephisto. That's a pity. I thought that you, who had your life changed by Mephisto, would at least have some intention of taking revenge on Mephisto. Since you're willing to use your entire life to capture souls for Mephisto, I won't disturb you any further. Have a good day. With that, Rog turned and left. Although going to hell wasn't a bad plan, it didn't matter if he really couldn't go. In any case, there were good challenge dungeons in other places besides hell. So, there was no need for him to go to hell. Watching Rog's figure gradually disappear into the distance, Johnny sighed and said, "Wait, can you tell me why you want to go to hell first?" Johnny didn't ask why Rog knew about Mephisto, nor did he ask how he knew about him and Mephisto. Now, he only wanted to know what Rog wanted to do in hell. If Rog's purpose in going to hell had something to do with Mephisto, they might really have a chance to work together. If I said that I'm going to hell to have some fun, would you believe me? Then, does your fun have anything to do with Mephisto? Of course. Of course, Rog wouldn't tell Johnny his true motive. Even if he did, Johnny might not believe him. Going to hell to have some fun was just a euphemism. The truth was that he wanted to go to hell to meet Mephisto and see how big the gap was between him and Mephisto. I heard that you have a hobby of accepting commissions from others. I wonder if I have the qualifications to do so. After thinking for a few seconds, Johnny asked. That depends on what your commission is about. If it can interest me, it's not impossible to accept your commission. Rog didn't expect Johnny to take the initiative to mention the commission. Just like you said, although I look free now, I'm actually capturing souls for Mephisto. You should already know about what happened between me and Mephisto, so I won't say much. I was indeed too naive back then, but I don't want to be a puppet in his hands for the rest of my life. I want to take back my life. I'll take you to hell, and in return, I hope you can fight Mephisto with me. Don't you want to go to hell to have some fun? There shouldn't be anything more exciting than fighting the Lord of Hell Mephisto in hell. He didn't know if Johnny had suddenly thought of something, or if he was going to go all out. His suggestion was inexplicably to Rog's liking. Although I don't know why Mephisto chose you back then, I have to say that I like your personality very much. As soon as he said that, Rog summoned an unused commission scroll from the medium scroll and tossed the scroll and pen to Johnny. Write down your commission. The content is to work together to fight against the Lord of Hell Mephisto. The reward is for you to take me to hell. Not long after Rog finished speaking, Johnny finished writing the commission and returned the scroll to him. Commission content: work together with Ghost Rider Johnny to fight against the Lord of Hell Mephisto. Commission status: incomplete. Commission reward: 200 ninja coins. Johnny's commission passed the system's judgment without any suspense, and because it involved a high-level existence like the Lord of Hell Mephisto, the commission reward given by the system was also very generous. A commission reward of 200 ninja coins. Rog remembered that the last time this number appeared was when he captured Loki in the Battle of New York. I'll accept your commission. After receiving Johnny's request scroll, Roger gestured for Johnny to go ahead with his hand. What do you mean? Johnny glanced at Rog and asked doubtfully. Open the passage to hell. If you don't go to hell, you can't complete the commission. You don't know how to open the passage to hell. Johnny answered softly. Chapter 309. Are you kidding me? When he first heard that Rog was going to hell, Johnny thought that Rog was joking with him. But now, it was Rog who felt that Johnny was joking with him. Looking at Johnny, who answered in a low voice and lowered his head silently, Rog suddenly regretted accepting the commission. Johnny had just said a lot to him, showing that he was going to fight Mephisto to the death. But as soon as he finished writing the commission scroll, such a funny thing happened. I have to calm down, I can't be angry. Killing the employer will cause the commission to fail, I can't let the commission fail. I have to calm down, I have to calm down. If the system hadn't already approved Johnny's commission, Rog really had the urge to strangle Johnny. It's okay, everyone calm down first. Ghost Riders can freely travel between the human world and hell. You just don't know how to open the channel yet. That's not a big problem. I just need to practice. After saying that, Roger suppressed his anger and patted Johnny's shoulder. Then, he continued, do you want to summon your motorcycle? If not, we'll leave now. Johnny just didn't know how to open the channel yet. This wasn't difficult for Rog, who was good at guiding others to master their own strength. Wasn't it just training a rookie Ghost Rider into a skilled craftsman? This wasn't difficult for him. Wait a minute, I'll summon it now. Johnny still had feelings for his motorcycle. After all, it was a motorcycle that he had personally modified. After waiting for more than 10 minutes in this unknown forest, Johnny's ghost motorcycle finally arrived in front of them. Without waiting for Johnny to turn back into a human, Rog used quantum teleportation and teleported himself and Johnny back to Konoha's headquarters. In order to avoid any unnecessary interference, Rog arranged for the teleportation to be in his private training room. This is my private training room. No one will come here except for me. You will practice here in the future. I'll have Hinata arrange internal permissions for you. You'll live in Konoha during this time. We'll leave after you learn how to travel to hell. After that, Rog left the training room and returned to his office. He doesn't need to worry about Johnny's life in Konoha. Hinata will take care of it. What he needs to do is to familiarize Johnny with the power he already has. For example, the dimensional teleportation ability to freely travel between the human world and hell. While training Johnny, he also needed to familiarize himself with the hellfire that he had just plundered. Hellfire was undoubtedly the best choice when dealing with hell creatures. After all, this was the origin energy from the depths of hell. It could cause irresistible true damage to hell creatures. In this way, Johnny settled down in Konoha and began his first real Ghost Rider training. Although the hellfire and the spirit of vengeance had given Johnny extraordinary strength, he was still a complete novice when it came to the use of power. In order to let Johnny familiarize himself with his Ghost Rider powers, Rog had no choice but to be his instructor, teaching him how to adapt to his powers and how to use them to the greatest extent. From a warrior's point of view, Johnny didn't have much talent. But fortunately his learning and comprehension abilities weren't bad, so teaching him wasn't particularly difficult. Time passed little by little, and after teaching Johnny for more than a month, Johnny finally learned the dimensional teleportation that he should have known long ago. Late the next night, Rog, who had put on his armor and Yandame's Hokage Haori, used quantum teleportation to bring Johnny, who had transformed into a ghost rider, to a certain section of Route 66. Route 66 was a famous American highway with the name Mother's Road. On this nearly 4,000-kilometer-long road, there were many sections that were rarely visited. After teleporting to a random section of the road, Rog first put on a chakra coat, and then covered the chakra coat with hellfire. After doing all this, Rog got on the ghost bike that Johnny was driving. In Rog's memory, there were two ways for Ghost Rider Johnny to go to hell. One was to drive the ghost bike at maximum speed, and the other was to create a heptagram array. He didn't know how to create a heptagram array, and neither did Johnny, so they could only choose the most simple and crude method. Let's begin. To be honest, Rog didn't really like the feeling of sitting in the back seat of the ghost bike, especially when the one driving it was a man. But now he didn't have any other better choice. He could indeed use hellfire to create his own ghost bike, but the ghost bike he created wouldn't have the ability to travel through hell. The ghost bike that Johnny was driving began to gradually accelerate, like an orange-red meteor across Route 66, leaving an extremely obvious high-temperature tire mark on the road. The ghost bike's speed was getting faster and faster, and when the ghost bike's speed reached its limit, a small Hell's Gate appeared out of thin air. At the moment when this Hell's Gate composed entirely of hellfire appeared, the Ancient One in the New York Sanctum frowned slightly. Hell's Gate, this guy is getting more and more restless. Although he sensed the appearance of Hell's Gate, Sorcerer Supreme Gui did not plan to stop Roger and Johnny. The reason is simple. The Hell's Gate they opened is a one-way passage to hell. This Hell's Gate can allow them to go to hell, but the creatures in hell can't go to the human world through this Hell's Gate. Therefore, Ancient One didn't bother to stop Rog and Johnny and tolerated their restless little actions. Going from Earth to hell, this kind of thing can't be hidden from Ancient One, and Rog doesn't intend to hide it from Ancient One. When he returns from hell, he will go to the New York Sanctum to officially visit Ancient One, so he doesn't mind letting Ancient One know in advance that he has been to hell. If he wanted to hide it from Ancient One, he wouldn't have let Johnny open Hell's Gate on Earth. Tatooine can also go to hell. When the ghost motorcycle rushed into the Hell's Gate made of hell's fire disappeared as well, as if it had never appeared. Before going to hell, Rog had been fantasizing about what kind of world hell would be like. However, when he really came to hell, he found that hell was not as good as he imagined. The scene that appeared in front of him at this time was completely different from what he imagined. He thought it would be a very bizarre world, but in fact, hell looks like a hot red world. There are no stars in the sky, nor is there a so-called sun, and the whole world is shrouded in red light. There are no plants on the earth, and there is no greenery, only weathered stone pillars and a dead desert. Chapter 310. Looking at his surroundings, Rog shook his head in disappointment. Looking at the scene in front of him, rather than saying that this was the legendary hell, it was more like an unknown alien planet. While Rog was looking around, Johnny was also looking around curiously. Although Johnny was a ghost rider, this was his first time in hell. And unlike Rog, Johnny didn't have experience in other worlds, so everything in front of him was a new experience. Compared with Earth, which was full of oxygen, the air in hell was full of poisonous gases, and there was also the smell of sulfur. With the protection of chakra and hellfire, Rog could survive in hell as a human. But considering the consumption of chakra, he removed the chakra coat and switched it to unlimited mode, which consumed less energy. With his current amount of chakra, which was as high as 9 taels, he didn't need to care about the consumption of chakra coat. But in a place like hell, where danger was everywhere, it was better to conserve chakra as much as possible. And apart from the consumption of chakra, He also discovered another limitation of Hell. Compared with Earth, the energy density in Hell was much higher, even about the same as Asgard's. However, the energy attributes of Hell were very extreme, so extreme that Rog wondered if he could still use immortal mode. The energy density in Hell was very high, and the attributes were very extreme. This also meant that the creatures in Hell were stronger than he had imagined. Where are we going next? Johnny turned around and asked. Although he didn't like Hell very much, he had to admit that after coming to Hell, in his Ghost Rider form, he felt as excited as if he had returned home. Even the hellfire burning on his body became more vigorous. Anywhere is fine. No matter where we go, we'll definitely run into Mephisto in the end. This was Mephisto's territory. Even if Rog and the others didn't look for Mephisto, Mephisto would still come looking for them. The only difference was when. As he answered Johnny, Rog summoned his transportation tool from the psychic scroll, the Dodge Tomahawk. Compared with motorcycles, Rog preferred sports cars. However, in a place like Hell, a sports car was not as practical as a motorcycle. Especially after the Hellfire demonization, the advantage of the sports car would be further weakened. When Rog summoned the prepared Dodge Tomahawk motorcycle, Ghost Rider Johnny couldn't help but sigh. As a motorcycle stunt rider, Johnny was certainly not unfamiliar with the Dodge Tomahawk. The Dodge Tomahawk was the fastest motorcycle produced by the Chrysler Automobile Company. Its top speed was over 676 kilometers per hour. An 8.3-liter V10 engine with 500 horsepower. Unlike ordinary motorcycles with single front and rear wheels, the Dodge Tomahawk was designed with 2 front and rear wheels. A special suspension system allowed the Dodge Tomahawk to keep all 4 wheels touching the ground when turning to avoid slipping when turning. In addition to its great horsepower and many wheels, the shape of the Dodge Tomahawk was equally stunning. The silver-white paint and the sci-fi appearance of the Bat motorcycle made the Dodge Tomahawk look even more impressive. Johnny had once fantasized about buying a Dodge Tomahawk, but the high price and the law that prohibited it from being on the road made him give up the idea in the end. Are all superheroes as rich as you? After observing the Dodge Tomahawk enviously, Johnny asked in confusion. How should I put it? Superheroes are the same as ordinary people. They are divided into the rich and the poor. I'm considered to have a little bit of money. With a super rich man like Tani around, Rog didn't dare to say that he was relatively rich. After all, until now, his private savings were only a few $1 billion, which was far from being comparable to Tani. After summoning the Dodge Tomahawk, Rog controlled the Hellfire and began to demonize his personal ride. Just like Johnny's ghost motorcycle, after the Hellfire covered the Dodge Tomahawk, the originally sci-fi-looking Dodge Tomahawk instantly turned from sci-fi to demonic. The silver-white paint turned into a bone-like grayish-white, the 4 front and rear wheels turned into blazing Hellfire, the heavy body turned into a skeleton, and the front of the motorcycle turned into the shape of a skull. Although the overall shape didn't change much, the Dodge Tomahawk that had been demonized by Hellfire had completely transformed from a product of Earth's technology into a product of Hell. Let's go, let's meet the natives of Hell. After sitting on the demonized Dodge Tomahawk, Rog turned his head and said to Johnny, and then directly twisted the throttle to the limit. As soon as his voice fell, the demonized Dodge Tomahawk rushed forward like a missile and quickly disappeared from Johnny's sight. The undemonized Dodge Tomahawk can reach an amazing speed of 676 kilometers per hour. After being demonized by Hellfire, the speed of the Dodge Tomahawk has undergone a qualitative change. Within a few seconds, the demonized Dodge Tomahawk driven by Rog accelerated to more than 1,200 kilometers per hour. Then, the demonized Dodge Tomahawk broke through the sound barrier like a roaring dragon, leaving a white fog-like air shockwave behind it. Rumble! Only in a place like Hell did Rog dare to drive the Dodge Tomahawk at such a speed. No wonder there were so many racers in the world. The word, extreme speed, really made a man's blood boil. Johnny never expected that Rog, who looked like a gentleman, would be even crazier than a professional stunt driver like him when he raced. In order not to be shaken off by Rog, in order to catch up to Rog's taillights, Johnny began to speed up silently, and started a lawless race with Rog that didn't require any communication. While Rog and Johnny were racing recklessly in hell, Mephisto, who was somewhere in hell, frowned in puzzlement. As a lord of hell, Mephisto was more sensitive to the abnormalities of hell than ordinary people could imagine. At that moment, Mephisto sensed an extremely unfamiliar and an extremely familiar life aura. The unfamiliar one was, of course, Rog's aura. And the familiar one was naturally Ghost Rider Johnny's. TSK. He actually came looking for me. This isn't something Ghost Riders should do. Mephisto wasn't surprised by Ghost Rider Johnny's appearance. As long as Johnny familiarized himself with Ghost Rider's power to a certain extent, he would master the way to travel through hell sooner or later. But what Mephisto didn't expect was that Johnny would actually bring an unfamiliar human to hell. Arrange a welcoming party for my knight and let him feel the warmth of his hometown. Mephisto, who was sitting on a huge skeleton throne, said indifferently. After he finished speaking, several demons of different shapes appeared in the empty hall in front of him. Chapter 311. At that moment, Rog didn't know that Mephisto's had already arranged a welcoming party for them. But even if he did, he wouldn't have cared too much. It was only a matter of time before Mephisto's discovered them. Besides, they had no intention of hiding their tracks at all. Two ghost motorcycles with completely different appearances sped across the plains like two flaming meteors as they barged into the gathering place of the hell demons. On the surface, it looked like Rog and Johnny were just speeding along aimlessly. But in fact, Rog had already locked onto the life energy signal in front of him. The life form of demons was completely different from humans, but in Rog's perception, they were not much different from the humans on Earth. The only difference was that demons had stronger life energy, and the light they emitted was more dazzling. Johnny, who was following behind Rog, had no idea what Rog was planning. Logically speaking, as a Ghost Rider, he should be the main character of this trip to hell. But after being personally taught by Rog for more than a month, he decisively gave up this right. Professional matters had to be handled by professionals, and in Johnny's eyes, Rog was a professional. When Rog and Johnny drove the ghost motorcycles to the gathering place of the demons in the distance sensed their presence. To be precise, they sensed Rog's presence. This was hell, and the human aura emitted by Rog was as obvious as the moon in the night sky. As long as these demons had some sensory abilities, they would be able to sense the aura on Rog that didn't belong to hell at all. Almost the moment they sensed Rog's human aura, these demons of all shapes and sizes became extremely excited. They weren't excited because they had discovered Rog, but because Rog's existence had evoked their desire for human flesh and blood. In the eyes of the demons, the humans on Earth were simply moving treasures. Torturing and killing human lives gave them an indescribable pleasure. Devouring human flesh and blood gave them a taste of the best delicacies that hell had never had before. Imprisoning a human soul allowed them to experience an unforgettable sense of accomplishment. No matter what it did to humans, it would bring them instinctive pleasure. This was also the main reason why the demons in hell never forgot about the humans on Earth. However, since the appearance of the Sorcerer Supreme Ancient One, it has become more and more difficult for the demons in hell to invade the Earth, so difficult that they may not succeed even if they give up their lives. The days of being able to easily bewitch humans to harvest souls were over. Even the Lord of Hell, Mephistos, could only use the Ghost Rider method to harvest souls, let alone ordinary demons like them. Therefore, in the eyes of these demons, Rog was not an intruder but a treasure that had delivered itself to their doorstep, a treasure that could bring them supreme joy. Without any hesitation, after discovering Rog's traces, these demons dashed toward Rog one after another, fearing that they wouldn't be able to get anything if they were late. Rog did not know what these demons were thinking, but he stopped the ghost motorcycle when he saw them rushing toward him excitedly. "What's the matter?" Johnny, who was behind him, stopped and asked doubtfully. "There is a group of demons rushing toward us. There are quite a few of them, and they seem to be very excited." Although he hadn't seen these demons yet, and the life energy signals he sensed wouldn't reflect any emotional changes, But the speed of those demons rushing to be the first was enough for Rog to make a judgment. A group of very excited demons? Johnny froze for a moment, then continued to ask, how is their strength? Will they be difficult to deal with? Johnny has been a ghost rider for a while, but he doesn't have much combat experience. The enemies he used to deal with were all human criminals, and with his strength, it was completely one-sided, so he hasn't gained any useful experience. Especially after being taught by Rog for more than a month, Johnny realized how bad his combat skills were. In Roger's words, any one of Konoha's combatants would be able to defeat him in terms of combat skills. The energy intensity is not bad, but it's hard to say how strong they are. Energy intensity was energy intensity, and strength was strength. For experienced people, energy intensity was equivalent to strength to a certain extent. But it also depended on who the person was. Johnny the Ghost Rider was a good example. After transforming into a Ghost Rider, Johnny's energy intensity was stronger than that of the Punisher Abomination and the others combined. But in a real battle, the Punisher Abomination alone could play with Johnny until he couldn't fight back. Then should we retreat for now? Johnny asked uncertainly. He was just a stunt rider. Although he had some combat experience after transforming into a Ghost Rider, he was far from being a real warrior. No need, and there's no point in hiding. They'll catch up sooner or later. Let's use them as an appetizer. We'll split them in half so that they won't say that I'm taking advantage of you. With that, Rog started the ghost bike again and drove toward the demons in the distance. As for whether Johnny would follow, he didn't really care. If Johnny didn't even have the guts, he wouldn't have needed to look for Mephisto. He would just obediently be Mephisto's puppet. Looking at Rog getting further and further away, Johnny stood there for a few seconds before finally starting the ghost bike and chasing after him. Aren't they just a bunch of excited demons? Let's do it. Not long after, the group of excited demons appeared in front of Rog and Johnny. The environment of hell was completely different from what Rog had imagined, and the appearance of these demons was also different from what he had imagined. There were no triangular tails, curved horns, or bat-like wings. Apart from the fact that their skin color was similar to that of the legendary demons, the demons that appeared in front of Rog and Johnny weren't demons at all. Rog also saw some typical man-made products on these demons. These demons actually knew how to use weapons. Although their weapons looked very old, and some of them even had obvious cracks, it was clear that these were their weapons. There weren't many demons with weapons, not even half of them. Most of the demons were still bare-handed, if their forelimbs could be considered hands. Just looking at the appearance of these demons, it was hard to believe that they were products of the same race. There were only a few dozen demons in front of them, but Rog had already seen more than 10 forms. And this was only the vanguard. Chapter 312. So this is a demon. I wonder how it feels to chop them up? Sizing up the eager demons in front of him, Rog got off the ghost bike and pulled out the northern cold blade at his waist. Then he walked step by step toward the demons in the distance. It wasn't his style to fight on the ghost bike. To him, the ghost bike was just not a means of transportation. Compared to a knight, he preferred to be a warrior. The demons in the distance didn't know what Rog was thinking, but when they saw Rog walking toward them, these demons of all shapes and sizes revealed greedy expressions. This human is mine. All the demons had the same thought. The demons in hell weren't a race that liked to share. To them, monopolizing all the benefits was an instinct that was engraved in the depths of their souls. Rather than hoping that these guys would learn to share, it was better to hope that they would become vegetarians. At least this way, the chances would be higher. In order to monopolize Rog, this human, to taste the long-awaited delicacy, and to satisfy their greed, these demons attacked almost at the same time. Compared to these fierce demons, Rog, who was wielding the northern cold blade, seemed a little weak, like a helpless lamb that had barged into a pack of wolves. I can only kill 17 of the 34 demons. That's not enough. Only Rog would have such a thought when facing the attacks of more than 30 demons. Behind him, Johnny, the Ghost Rider, saw so many demons swarming over, and the first reaction in his mind was to retreat. It wasn't that Johnny was timid, but that he had a normal reaction that a normal person would have. It wasn't Johnny who was wrong, but Rog. Just as Johnny was considering whether he should help Rog, Rog was already fighting with the demons. The black northern cold blade slashed at one of the demons like black lightning. The dull blade instantly cut through the demon's arm and chopped off his entire right hand. After cutting off the demon's arm, the first thought that came to Rog's mind was that the demon's blood was red. Although a strange thought appeared in his mind, his attack did not stop at all. The northern cold saber in his hand flew up and down, drawing out one black arc after another. Every time the northern cold blade swung out, it would take away a part of the demon's body. Be it an arm, a leg, or a head. At this moment, Rog was even more demonic than these demons. He was mercilessly and efficiently killing these natives of hell. If it were other intelligent creatures, facing Rog's extremely efficient slaughter, they would involuntarily feel fear and retreat. However, the demons in hell were not ordinary intelligent creatures. Not only did Rog's massacre not make them feel the slightest fear, but it also aroused the bloodlust in their hearts, making them even crazier. All kinds of weapons and sharp claws attacked Rog. Some of the demons who had mastered energy attacks even threw magma-like long-range attacks at Rog. These demons' attacks could not be said to be weak, and the damage they caused was also very substantial. Unfortunately, these injuries did not appear on Rog's body. Because of their size, the smallest demon here was almost half a meter taller than Rog. Not to mention, there were some demons that were 7 or 8 meters tall. Being small meant that the target was small, which meant that the hit rate was low. Most of the fierce attacks of the demons landed on their own kind. As for the remaining ones, Rog easily dodged them. These demons used their actions to prove what was the correct way to injure teammates. From Rog and Johnny's point of view, these demons were a team. But in reality, these demons had nothing to do with the so-called team. They only appeared at the same place at the same time to try to capture the same target. Therefore, injuring teammates was not in their consideration at all. And the more demons died, the fewer competitors they had, who said that demons only knew how to act recklessly. Sometimes they could be quick-witted, such as now. Facing these demons' siege, Rog displayed exquisite close combat skills, as if he was a merciless killing machine. Flesh and blood splattered everywhere, and screams were heard. Under Rog's storm-like attacks, these demons looked like they were beaten up badly, but in reality, they did not suffer any serious casualties. Until now, there were only 5 or 6 demons that had truly lost their lives. Although the demons' regenerative ability was not as crazy as the symbiotic demons, their unique life form gave them the tenacious vitality of a cockroach. Injuries that could be fatal to ordinary creatures were only minor injuries to them. What was more troublesome was that every demon's fatal parts were not the same. Most creatures had the same weakness. For example, the weakness of humans was the heart and brain. But demons were different. Their hearts and brains were not important, not to mention their limbs and internal organs. To demons, as long as their core was still there, they would not die. The core was not only the core of a demon's life, but also their source of energy. But each demon's core was located in different places. Even if 2 demons looked exactly the same, their cores may not be in the same place. Although the insight of the Sharingan was good, it was not enough for Rog to see the core of these demons. This also caused him to be unable to increase his killing efficiency. Although in the eyes of Johnny and the other demons, his killing efficiency was already amazing, as he had killed 5 to 6 demons in less than 10 minutes, Johnny and the rest of the demons had already been killed. If he had the Byakugan, it would be a lot easier now. At this time, Rog couldn't help but think of the Byakugan. But thinking about it, he didn't intend to change his Sharingan. After once again crippling the demon in front of him, Rog used the body flicker technique to escape the encirclement of the demons, and then used a new fire release ninjutsu. Hellfire release, Grand Fire Annihilation. A flame came out of Rog's mouth. When the flame flew toward the demons in front of him, the orange-red hellfire appeared out of thin air and merged with the chakra flame of Grand Fire Annihilation, turning into a terrifying flame with a lighter color and a higher temperature. The fusion of hellfire and fire release was Rog's latest research result. And these fire release merged with hellfire is the so-called hellfire release. When hellfire release, grand fire annihilation flew in front of them and turned into a burning sea of fire, these demons who were in a state of excitement and fanaticism felt a tremor from the depths of their soul. Chapter 3:13. Although these demons had never seen fire annihilation, they didn't know what ninjutsu was. But they knew hellfire, and that hellfire was a terrifying existence that could completely destroy them. For the demons in hell, there were only two kinds of existences that could make them instinctively feel danger. One was the hellfire from the depths of hell, and the other was a holy weapon from heaven. As for the others, they might take them seriously, but they were absolutely not afraid. This human could actually use hellfire? After discovering this fact, in their eyes, Rog was no longer a moving treasure, but a dangerous creature that could take their lives at any time. Although Rog's body had been wrapped in hellfire, these demons didn't pay too much attention to it at first. After all, not far behind Rog stood a ghost rider. In their view, the hellfire on Rog's body was just a kind of protection given to him by the ghost rider. In a flash, all kinds of thoughts flashed through the demons' minds, including but not limited to going up and risking their lives to escape and so on. But no matter what choice they wanted to make, they now needed to deal with the vast sea of fire that had already arrived in front of them. These demons didn't care about ordinary flames at all. After all, they had unreasonably high fire resistance. But hellfire was different. Not only could hellfire ignore their fire resistance and wantonly burn their bodies, but it could also cause unimaginable damage to their souls. They definitely couldn't dodge it. In order to reduce the damage caused by hellfire as much as possible, these demons made an uncommon but very effective defensive posture. These demons of different shapes and sizes fell to the ground one by one, doing their best to curl up their bodies and protect the core in their bodies. As long as the core was still there, it didn't matter if their bodies were burned. Even if their burnt bodies couldn't grow back, it wasn't a big deal. Rog didn't expect that these demons would actually choose to resist his hellfire release, fire annihilation. It seemed that he was still underestimated. Although fire annihilation wasn't a ninjutsu he often used, and the power of its attack wasn't particularly outstanding. But there were still not many enemies who dared to resist his fire annihilation. Even Lord-tier symbiotic demons and Warner Protoss elite warriors wouldn't dare to take his Grand Flame Destroyer head-on, not to mention that he was using a special version that was fused with Inferno. Since you're so confident, I'll play with you. With a thought, Rog silently increased the damage output of Chakra and Hellfire. These demons wanted to use their physiques to resist, but Rog planned to burn them to death. Thus, a grand fiery annihilation, whose duration and power far exceeded the previous one, was born just like that. In the sea of hellfire created by Grand Fire Extinguisher, miserable howls continuously sounded out. Because of the sea of fire, the surrounding temperature suddenly rose by several degrees. The apocalyptic sea of flames persisted for tens of seconds before Rog finally ended his hellfire escape, Grand Flame Annihilation. The sea of fire gradually disappeared, and the surrounding temperature began to drop. When the flames completely dissipated, the figures of the demons reappeared in front of Rog and Johnny. Compared to before Rog used Hellfire Escape, Grand Flame Annihilation, there were less than 10 demons that could still stand, and all of them were riddled with wounds, with burn marks left behind by Grand Fire Extinguisher. More than half of the demons were incinerated, and not even the most basic corpses were left behind. As for the remaining ones, the life force in their bodies had fallen to an unprecedented low. Glancing at the remaining demons, Rog put away the northern cold blade in his hand and turned to Johnny and said, "I accidentally killed a few more, the rest are yours." Originally, they agreed to split it half, but Rog didn't expect that these demons were more fragile than he thought. After sensing that the life force of these demons were disappearing one by one, he decisively ended his Grand Fire Extinguisher. But even so, more than half of the demons still died in Hellfire Escape, Grand Fire Extinguisher. You should deal with it. You've already beaten them to this extent. It's fine to end them while you're at it. Johnny glanced at the demons who didn't have much vitality left and hesitated for a few seconds before giving a silent answer. Although he was already a ghost rider, Johnny was still a stunt rider at heart. He wasn't interested in fighting at all. You'd better get used to fighting demons. They're just appetizers who came to us voluntarily. The people sent by Mephistopheles aren't as easy to deal with as they are. I don't want to have to worry about your safety while fighting Mephistopheles. Do you understand? Mephistopheles wasn't a weakling. In Johnny's current state, he had no chance against Mephistopheles at all. Thus, Rog had to make the best use of his time to let Johnny grow up. At the very least, he had to let Johnny get used to fighting demons. Do we really have to do this? Johnny didn't have a good impression of demons, but dealing with these demons who were already riddled with wounds and didn't have much ability to resist made him feel like he was bullying the weak. Don't be so wishy-washy. They're not human. Don't be so saintly, Rog said unhappily. He could understand Johnny's desire to be a good person, but it also depended on the time and the kind of people he was facing. Only an idiot would feel pity for a demon. Under Rog's urging, Johnny slowly walked in front of the demons and turned the chains on his body into ghost chains. What happened next was a one-sided massacre. Although Johnny didn't have much combat experience, a ghost rider was a ghost rider after all. His combat instincts were enough to crush these demons who didn't have much combat strength left. After Johnny completely ended the lives of these demons, Rog started his ghost bike and continued driving into the distance. How Johnny wanted to digest this battle was his own business. All he had to do was provide a suitable environment for Johnny. As Rog and Johnny drove the ghost bike into the distance, 3 demons with no specific form rushed toward them like ghosts. The demons that had just appeared were just small fries attracted by Rog's human scent. These 3 demons with no specific form were the real feast that Mephistopheles had prepared for them. Stop the bike, we're being watched. The ghost bike that was speeding like a flaming meteor stopped. Rog frowned and pulled out the northern cold blade at his waist. The enemy this time was a little different. Chapter 3:14. Rog sensed the 3 demons rushing toward them. In his perception, the life energy signals of the 3 demons were obviously different. The intensity of their life energy was higher, and he also sensed the existence of natural energy on them. Are there a lot of them? Will they be difficult to deal with? Johnny stopped beside Rog on the ghost motorcycle and asked seriously. Only 3. They'll be harder to deal with than the previous ones. Although they hadn't officially fought and hadn't even seen each other, it could be seen from the intensity of their energy that the enemies this time were more difficult to deal with than the previous ones. Not everyone was like Johnny, who had energy but didn't know how to use it properly. Be mentally prepared. This battle will be a good challenge for you. After saying that, Rog walked down from the ghost motorcycle and pulled out the northern cold blade from his waist. Although the northern cold blade was a weapon, it couldn't be put into the psychic scroll like other weapons. Unless Rog put the northern cold blade, which was Blackie, into a special container and then put the container into the psychic scroll, Blackie, as a living creature, couldn't be put into the psychic scroll. Blackie didn't like the feeling of being imprisoned, and Rog didn't have the hobby of imprisoning his companions, so the northern cold blade became the only weapon he needed to carry with him. After pulling out the northern cold blade from his waist, Rog inserted the pitch-black northern cold blade into the ground and then summoned the disaster pistol that he hadn't used for a while. After summoning the disaster pistol, Rog directly controlled the hellfire to cover it, demonizing the disaster pistol into the evil spirit pistol. Under the hellfire's demonization, the disaster pistol's appearance also changed from the earth style to the evil spirit style. The 2 barrels side by side became entwined with white bones, and the 2 muzzles became the shape of a skull. After the demonization, not only did the disaster pistol's appearance change, but its function also changed. The ability to fire ninjutsu bullets was retained. After all, ninjutsu bullets wouldn't demonize with the hellfire. However, the ability to fire chakra bullets became the ability to fire hellfire bullets. The shooting mode didn't change much. It was still normal shooting, fatal shooting, and ninjutsu bullets. He would use the Evil Spirit Calamity Pistol for long-range attacks and the Northern Cold Blade for melee attacks. Before the three demons appeared, Rog was already prepared for battle. Looking at Rog loading the disaster pistol with ninjutsu bullets, Johnny also took out a double-barreled shotgun he carried with him, enchanted it into an evil spirit shotgun, and removed the chain wrapped around his body. Everything was ready and waiting for the enemy to come knocking on their door. After standing in place for a few minutes, Rog and Johnny finally saw the enemy they had been waiting for. A whirlwind that was visible to the naked eye arrived in front of them with flying sand. Then, it condensed into a human figure. When the whirlwind demon appeared, an orange-red flame followed closely and turned into a human figure beside the whirlwind demon. About a minute after the two demons appeared, the third demon finally arrived. It surged out of the ground like a mole and condensed into a body made of stones and mud. Whirlwind, flames, earth. The demons that were chosen by Mephistos to be part of the welcoming team were indeed impressive. They were different from the other demons they had met before. Neil, human. Before Rog and Johnny could say anything, the demon made of whirlwind spoke first. Judging from the strength of its energy and its position, this demon that had mastered the power of wind should be the leader of this welcoming team. What surprised Rog even more was that this whirlwind demon actually knew the language of Earth. You want me to kneel? Huh, did Mephistos give you the guts to do that? Or do you think that the three of you have the ability to make me kneel? Rog replied with disdain. He didn't care about these three demons that had mastered the power of nature at all. Although there weren't many people who had mastered the power of nature, there were quite a few who had died at his hands. For example, the three Storm brothers in Warner Protoss. His Majesty's order is to capture the two of you alive. Even if you're crippled, you can still report back. Just as he finished speaking, this whirlwind demon took the initiative to attack. The whirlwind demon raised its right hand casually, and dozens of wind blades that resembled sickles flew towards Rog and Johnny. Like transparent wind blades, they shot towards Rog and Johnny at a speed faster than bullets, arriving in front of them in an instant. Although they didn't have a physical body, the power of these wind blades wasn't any weaker than real sharp blades. Not to mention that Rog was only a human. Even demons with stronger physique and defense would be cut in half after being hit by the wind blades. Perhaps it was because the whirlwind demon hated Rog, or because it felt that Rog was stronger, but most of the wind blades were aimed at him. As for the wind blades that flew towards Johnny, there were only a few of them. Just as these wind blades were about to hit Rog and cut him into pieces, Rog finally moved. Rog pulled out the Northern Chill Blade from the ground at an unimaginable speed. He closed his eyes and casually waved the Northern Chill Blade in his hand. Clang, 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 clang. The Northern Chill Blade's blade clashed with the wind blades, and the sound of metal clashing rang out. The clashing sounds rang out one after another, and the wind blades released by the whirlwind demon were shattered one after another. In less than 3 seconds, Rog had shattered all the wind blades that were attacking him. After easily dispelling the whirlwind demon's attack, he opened his tightly shut eyes and snorted in disdain. You want to hit me with this little trick? You're so naive. Rog casually dealt with the whirlwind demon's attack, while Johnny seemed to be in a much more difficult situation. Although there weren't many wind blades that were attacking him, to Johnny, who didn't have much battle experience, they were fast and transparent. They were very difficult to deal with. The evil spirit chain wrapped in hellfire blocked one of the wind blades with difficulty, and then the rest of the wind blades hit Johnny's body without any suspense. Johnny didn't block all the wind blades, but the moment the wind blades hit his body, the hellfire on his body suddenly expanded and turned into a hellfire armor, blocking all the wind blades that were attacking him. The sharp wind blades hit the hellfire armor, causing sparks, and then completely dissipated. Although he seemed to be in a difficult situation, Johnny still blocked all the wind blades in the end without any injuries. What do we do now? After using the hellfire armor to block all the wind blades, Johnny turned his head and asked Rog. Pick one and deal with it yourself. Leave the other two to me. Rog said casually, as if he was discussing how to split the fruits with Johnny. Although the three demons on the opposite side had some skills, that was all they had. Chapter 3:15. I want the one with the dirt body. After seriously sizing up the three evil demons, Johnny made a decision. Compared to the two demons with the whirlwind body and the flame body, the dirt demon that appeared last looked easier to deal with. At least his body looked sturdier and didn't have the unreal feeling of the whirlwind and flame demons. No problem, he's yours. Rog didn't have any objections to Johnny's choice. No matter which demon Johnny chose, it was all the same to him. Seeing that Roger and Johnny didn't care about them at all, the three demons were dissatisfied. The whirlwind around the whirlwind demon became even fiercer, while the flames on the flame demon became even more vigorous. As for the dirt demon, no, the earth demon, it became even bigger. They had always been the ones ignoring others. When was it their turn to be ignored? Without any communication, the three demons that controlled different powers of nature attacked Rog and Johnny. They wouldn't attack as Rog and Johnny had planned. The whirlwind demon relied on its superior speed to attack Johnny first, trying to quickly finish off this inexperienced Ghost Rider. Although Ghost Riders had an innate advantage against demons, it depended on which demon they were facing. To the demons of hell, Ghost Rider was like their natural enemy. However, there were many Ghost Riders that had died at the hands of demons. Just as the whirlwind demon turned into a whirlwind and attacked Johnny, Rog, wielding the northern cold blade, arrived in front of Johnny first. Your opponent is me. Rog raised the northern cold blade in his hand and slashed at the whirlwind like lightning. Using a blade to slash at a whirlwind didn't seem like a wise choice, but it also depended on who was wielding the blade. The pitch-black northern cold saber emitted streaks of silver-white electric snakes. The dull saber emitted a dazzling silver-white light, like a laser slashing through the tornado. The roaring whirlwind immediately split in two, like a river being split by a giant rock, and bypassed the northern cold blade. The whirlwind demon didn't really want to fight with Rog. Compared to Rog, the inexperienced Ghost Rider was clearly a more suitable target. He would deal with the soft persimmon Ghost Rider first before gnawing on the hard bone Rog. The whirlwind demon's choice wasn't wrong, but he looked down on Rog too much. The two smaller whirlwinds had just swept past Rog when they were met with a hellfire wall. Blackie didn't like being covered by hellfire, so Rog had never covered the northern cold blade with hellfire. But this didn't mean that he couldn't use hellfire while using the northern cold blade. Enchanted weapons were only one of the abilities of hellfire. Compared to enchanted weapons, Logue preferred to directly control hellfire in battle. The hellfire wall that soared into the sky completely separated the whirlwind demon from Johnny. Before the whirlwind demon could change direction, the hellfire wall slammed into him like a huge wave. Boom. The hellfire wall slammed into the whirlwind demon like a huge wave, and then slammed into the ground, turning into a raging sea of fire. The moment the hellfire wall slammed into the whirlwind demon, Rog used lightning body blink to leave the spot to avoid being hit by the hellfire wall. Rog, who used lightning body blink, not only disappeared in an instant, he also appeared in front of the flame demon like a ghost. Water release, hard whirlpool water blade. Before the flame demon could react, a whirlpool formed from water appeared in front of him, firmly binding him. The flames on the flame demon's body weren't hellfire. Chakra's water release was enough to suppress it in terms of attributes. Using the water whirlpool to bind the flame demon was just the prelude to water release, hard whirlpool water blade. Under the gaze of the flame demon, Rog's left hand created a water whirlpool and condensed it into a rapidly spinning water javelin. Not good, danger. Just as the flame demon's heart was alerted to the danger, the water javelin's tip hit his chest. The moment the spinning water javelins came into contact with the flame demon's chest, they turned into a huge water spout. Like a roaring water dragon, they sent him flying. From Rog using lightning body blink to the flame demon being sent flying by the hard whirlpool water blade, everything happened in the blink of an eye. The whirlwind demon that was hit by the hellfire wall didn't have time to stop Rog, and the slow earth demon didn't even have time to react. In order to cause enough damage to the flame demon, Rog used all his strength in the hard whirlpool water blade this time. The water tornado that hit the flame demon was more than 10 meters thick, and like a water dragon, it swallowed and sent the flame demon flying. Under the huge impact of the water tornado, the flame demon was sent flying for several hundred meters, and most of the flames on his body were also extinguished by the water tornado. After seriously injuring the flame demon with one move, Rog's figure disappeared again. To deal with enemies like the whirlwind demon and the flame demon, he had to end the battle quickly. Otherwise, once they reacted and directly used elemental incarnation, the battle would become a protracted battle that Rog hated the most. After being hit by the Hellfire Wall, the whirlwind demon reformed his body, intending to launch another attack. But at this moment, Rog appeared in front of him again and condensed a ball of chakra in his left hand. Sealing technique, 4 symbols seal. Rog didn't expect the whirlwind demon to choose to reform his body. If the whirlwind demon had chosen to maintain its whirlwind or tornado form, he might not have been able to finish off the whirlwind demon so quickly. But the whirlwind demon's action of reforming his body gave him an opportunity to kill the whirlwind demon. As soon as the whirlwind demon's body reformed, the 4 symbols seal in Rog's left hand hit his lower abdomen, and a powerful sealing power instantly covered his body. Damn it! The moment the 4 symbols seal took effect, the whirlwind demon sensed danger. But it was already too late. The 4 symbols seal couldn't bind the whirlwind demon forever, and Rog didn't need it to last for too long. As long as the 4 symbols seal could forcefully bind the whirlwind demon for a period of time, it would be enough. Rog saw a finger-sized core in the whirlwind demon's illusory body, and a core that emitted a faint green light. "Say hello to Mephisto for me." Rog's voice sounded in the whirlwind demon's ear, and then a beautiful silver arc appeared. The cold northern blade, wrapped in silver lightning snakes, slashed through the air and hit the whirlwind demon's body, and the small core in his body. Bang! When the cold northern blade's blade hit the faint green core, a faint sound like glass shattering rang out. The core shattered, and the whirlwind demon died. From the moment Rog blocked the whirlwind demon to the moment the whirlwind demon's body dissipated like a breeze, only a short 2 to 3 seconds had passed. And in these short 2 to 3 seconds, the whirlwind demon was dead, and the flame demon was severely injured. After witnessing Rog's smooth attack from where he stood, Johnny realized just how big the gap between him and Rog was. No, this was no longer a gap, but a moat that couldn't be crossed. You're tuning in to the Wandering Hero YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.